Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Show. I'm Matt Dillahunty, and as always, I'm here with Jimmy Snow. And today is Jimmy's birthday, so I'm not going to sing happy birthday because that would irritate too many of the wonderful people who are here watching us now. But we are, in fact, live, and we're going to do kind of a lengthier show today. I mean, we're not going to go 24/7, but at least it'll be all new content with us sitting here for Jimmy's birthday. But we're happy to take questions and calls. We've already got callers on the line. As a matter of fact, the lines are almost full, but we're going to try to make sure that we're keeping space for theistic callers. I just engaged with a couple of theists on Twitter who were evidently too scared to call into the show, but wanted to trash talk me on Twitter. I know that on occasion people come into the chat and want to trash talk in the chat instead of getting in and calling in. All you have to do is call in. I would recommend, though, if you're a Christian in particular, that what you should probably do is talk to Jesus first. Ask him what you should say specifically to be the best representative of Jesus's thoughts to the atheist community. We'll be happy to give you time to talk. We may, in fact, put you on hold and interrupt and ask questions in order to get clarification about what you're saying. And genuinely, on many occasions, that's so that you don't embarrass yourself too much. Because one of the things that's happened over the years is that the quality of apologists understanding the arguments and being able to make a case has been really, really sketchy. I'm not saying this to discourage anybody. If you're bad at it, go ahead, be bad at it. That's how you get better. That's how all of us get better at this. But if you call in with the confidence, like I remember when I was still a fundamentalist Christian, a Southern Baptist youth, and one of the things that we were constantly told was, I know that Jesus Christ is Lord. And while I get that that's an incredibly powerful message for the people sitting there in the pews, the truth is, no, you don't. And no, I didn't. You don't know. And you definitely don't know that you know that you know that you know, because that's an awareness of an epistemology, and you have to be able to demonstrate that. And if that's confusing for you, that's fine, because Jimmy and I are happy to explain all of those things. Jimmy, how are you enjoying your birthday today?
It's been good. Yesterday was actually great. Today's mostly back to shows and work and stuff. So yesterday was more the celebration. However, I guess to that end, a couple of things we're going to do different today. One, we actually will. This is the only show that usually we don't read the super chats out loud. However, at the end of the show today, we will. So if any number of people want to send $5 or more that says "Happy birthday, go fuck yourself," that's great. We'll read all of them. And then also tonight at 7:00 for patrons, patreon.com/calltheline, we'll do a Zoom thing, and you can come tell me to go fuck myself to my face if you like. That's a whole thing. Of course, that's the way. I mean, obviously I've been doing holidays this way. When it's a holiday, it's like, all right, what should we do on the line? So my brain is like, it's your birthday. What should you do on the line is still where my brain goes. So yeah, patrons afterwards, patron Zoom, but otherwise, good birthday. We tried a new pizza place yesterday. Matt was there. I liked it so much that I'm planning to, at some point during this several-hour block of shows and Zooms that I'm going to be doing, order the same one, because it was that good, real good. And my dentist just sent me a text using my legal first name, which is how I know it's not really from my dentist. Like, this is a robot that did it. And it's Sunday. The dentists aren't coming in on Sunday to send out birthday texts. Anyway.
Yeah, there are people in chat who are asking how old Jimmy is. He is 22.
Of course. What do you think? I mean, look at my face. I wish people hadn't answered. I'd have loved to have heard, I would have loved to have heard people's guesses, but. Oh,
there are guesses. Somebody said 15, somebody said 7, somebody said 34, which I suspect is much closer than 15 or 7 or 22.
33. No one pointed it out, or at least that I saw, but, there was, before the show, I realized I had put my birthday as every show at the end. It actually helps us with sorting after the show. It's there for us. It's not for anybody else, but other people might use it. At the end, we always put the date, and it's always in the format 2-digit. So usually today would say 03.05.23, but I had written 03.05.90, because 90% of the time, or 99% of the time that I'm writing my birthday is in like legal forms or something official. And so your muscle memory just 030590. And it was a little funny thing that that happened. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I fixed it. I did notice eventually.
It has been fixed, and it's a completely natural mistake. I don't know that I can list March 31st without throwing in 1969 or whatever year it was then as well.
Speaking of,
there was something else
I was going to say, should we say now on April 2nd, will you also do a Zoom where people can come say happy birthday, go fuck yourself? We can decide later.
That's 2 days after my birthday. If I'm in town, I'm not sure. I think I may be out of town that weekend. In any case, I also want to mention today is also No Illusions' birthday. From Scathing Atheist, Puzzle and Thunderstorm, all of that stuff. And Noah will be joining me in a month or two. As he finds time, and Noah's always been one of my favorite guest hosts ever on the show. And I love his stuff in general. So happy birthday, Noah, and to the 11 of the people on Facebook who have birthdays today with y'all.
Heck yeah! All right, yeah, I'm down to get into calls. We are going to go long today. We there's no Joseph's myth after today's episode, so we'll just go until we can go no longer. I'll get self-righteous like Ted Cruz. I will stand until I can stand no more. Green eggs on ham, or whatever it's called. That was the thing that happened once. Anyway, you can.
I don't know that thing.
He got when he was trying to filibuster, he read Green Eggs and Ham on the Senate floor and started by saying, I will stand until I can stand no more. Ted Cruz. Anyway. Calls.
On that note, we have Elise in Washington, pronouns she, her, has an ex-Mormon question, and so I will let her ask Jimmy. Welcome, Elise. You're on the line, and welcome to the Sunday Show.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello.
I have my question is mostly for Jimmy. I grew up Mormon, kind of all over the country, so a little bit in Utah, but lots of other states. So I have both kind of the Utah Mormon experience, but also just kind of the non-Utah Mormon experience. And I left the church after I went to BYU, left the church, got divorced from the man I married in the temple. And we have a daughter together, shared custody in Washington, but he's getting remarried, so he's moving out of state. So I don't want to stay in Washington since my daughter won't be here anymore, and I don't have any family around here anymore. And no friends. The one friend I did have also is moving out of state. So I'm moving back to Utah to stay with my parents for at least a little while, get back on my feet, save up some money over the summer, and probably staying there because I have a bunch of siblings, a bunch of cousins. And yeah, so I haven't been a member for 8 years now. Well, I haven't been going to church for 8 years. I've only been officially resigned for 2 years now. But I'll be going back into Utah, back into the fray, back into Red Country, and wondering if you have any advice for getting back into the Mormon culture that is Utah.
Yeah, I do actually. So yeah, I'm going to try and make this quick because it's not super extensive, but I actually sort of envy you, and I've talked about it a lot with people. If I move again from Austin, let's say we get our community center running up here, which is one of the goals for maybe even this year. We get everything going perfect on the line, and it goes, okay, it's time to now take this thing we've built in Austin and expand it to other cities. Utah and somewhere close to Mormon Central is like right at the top of the list. I actually somewhat envy that you're going there because while yes, it is the biggest Mormon community in the world, it's also the biggest and best ex-Mormon community in the world. So there are robust ex-Mormon communities in Utah, and there is just something about the shorthand of when you meet another ex-Mormon where you instantly like bond over something that other Christian people have versions of and stuff, but there's something very unique about I guess the fundamentalism and the cult and the abuse that comes out of it that when you're around other people. So I guess my main advice is just find those ex-Mormon communities. They're not difficult to locate. They're all over Facebook, they're all over Meetup, and see where you fit in. And I'd say to be in a place like Utah that's going to be hostile to your existence, you need to find those people who aren't hostile to your existence.
Right.
And yeah, I think it would be I think that's probably the only real advice is you're definitely going to want to prepare yourself. And if you need to be in therapy, because you're going to start seeing a lot of religious imagery right now that you probably take for granted that you don't see as much, like The worst I
Right.
ever see is incidentally passing a Mormon church, but obviously you're going to get back there and it's, statues and buildings and temples everywhere. So
Right. Well, and also just like I'm going from a very, very blue state to a very, very red state,
yeah,
which isn't the biggest of worries, but
yeah.
I'm a woman. I'm sexually active. Like I'm worried about, things that could happen.
Yeah.
So,
but Colorado's a 6-hour drive away, I think, from you. So
true.
You'll be fine. You can make the trip. They'll welcome everybody for as far as those things go. I'm not saying it's no big deal. Obviously, I'm saying have a plan. And if I was you, my plan would be Colorado or Nevada.
Right.
Go get care. Probably I'd pick Colorado.
I have had some old college friends who are also ex-Mormon tease the idea of I should pretend to be a never-mo and see if like new Mormon neighbors try to like convert me or what they tell the church or if I ask questions and what they would say.
It's not worth the stress unless that's something you're making. Yeah. If you're a content creator, maybe, but no, it's not worth the stress.
Right. Makes sense.
Unless it's something you enjoy.
Yeah.
Like,
right. I think I might enjoy it in like a text-based format, but I don't think I could do it in person. I think I'd get too nervous.
Yeah.
I get it. I mean, it'll surprise a lot of people, but there's actually a no soliciting, no proselytizing sign on my door, because I get enough of it everywhere else that I definitely don't need, JWs and stuff knocking on my door. And then, let me pretend like I know nothing and sit here and engage in conversation. I've done that exactly once about, 16, 17 years ago, in my old apartment complex. And that was enough. Now, although we don't have a lot of theists who've called in yet today, we do tend to get good theistic callers. And I'm genuinely hoping that we get some theistic callers that prompt a good discussion today.
Yeah.
That way I won't have to take the sign down on my door so that they can knock into it there.
Yeah, I'd like that too. Yeah. Also, I'll tell you one thing I do for if missionaries come to the door. I have a stack of CES letters in the other room. And basically, my plan, it's not come to fruition yet. I don't know if they know I'm here and they avoid me, but is I'll take a Book of Mormon and I will read as many pages of that Book of Mormon as you read of this book. I'll trade you books, and in a week, whatever number, if you read the entire book, I'll read the same number of pages in the Book of Mormon, and we can meet up and discuss what we learned from those pages. That's my plan for missionaries at the door. You could do the same thing if you like
that
but
plan.
It really fucks up their world because there's no way they'll accept.
Right.
That's the big thing is they're just going to say no.
Yeah. Well, and of course, I have a brother on a mission right now, so it's a weird situation as well. But
did he get Orlando?
Yeah.
He's in Brazil.
I have a brother who went to Brazil as well. If it makes you feel any better, some of the biggest challenges to his faith are coming right now. And he will probably, in a few years, when he leaves the church sometime between the age of 27 and 33, just speaking statistically, will probably cite things that started on his mission as the reason he left. Right. Yeah. If that makes you feel better, it happens a lot.
Right.
Tale as old as time.
But a lot of my siblings are kind of like that, like, I'm still a Mormon, but like, I don't go to church every Sunday. So like my family's not all like 100% in and then I'm the only one out. I'm not like the total black sheep. I'm just, the blackest of all the sheep. Yeah, that's a common thing of you try to satiate the family behind. When I first left, it's like, yeah, sure, I'm not in the church anymore, but I'm still a conservative and, maybe I'm a deist, and you're trying to say those things where they're like, well, at least you're not the worst version. And now I'm like, hey, everybody, I'm an atheist, socialist, queer. What are you going to do with me? Right. Well, and that's where I'm at. Like of all my siblings who are kind of like, yeah, I still go to church once in a while, or we still want to raise our kids in the church kind of thing. I'm like, no, I post a bunch of crap on Facebook specifically because I know it'll piss my dad off. Yeah. Just like retweeting liberal stuff and, atheist stuff and ex-Mormon content and all of that. Not attached to it, but still want to raise the kids in it is a wild thing to say because that's the kids are the people, they're getting the worst version of the church. So right. And I have my sister, they like the community that like having like have someone nursery or having friends that are at church or activity days and all of that. And just, I guess, the structure of it, which I think you can find elsewhere, but yeah. What were you to say, Matt?
The people who do that, I've done a video about this. I get it more from a more normative, not to shit all over Mormons, but a more normative Protestant thing where this is the majority and being a parent is difficult and you don't necessarily know what to do. So you use the church as a babysitter. It's kind of the video that he did.
Right.
For me, most of the ex-Mormons that I meet, they didn't just like, you have Catholics who don't care and become lapsed Catholics. And then you have Protestants who are backslidden or they don't care. They, hey, I'm not a believer anymore, but it's not a big deal. Almost everybody that I've met who finds their way out of the Mormon church has done so because of actual, my sample set is definitely biased, but like research and thought. And it was a process, and it's a process that I think would be in opposition to, I don't believe anymore, but let me keep sending the kids. Like, you couldn't pay me to send my kids to any church on a regular basis.
Right.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Elise, first, I hope I'm saying your name right. And second, I hope
You
that's...
are, yes.
Okay, cool.
Good job.
And second, I hope that gives you some stuff to work with and think about. Anything else before we let you go?
I don't think so.
Cool. Thanks for calling.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for calling.
That number is 720-619-2288, 720-619-2288. We would really, really love to hear from some theist callers. Give us some challenges. By the way, when we say theist callers, we're not just saying Christians. If you're a Muslim, you want to call in and challenge us with your Islamic proposals, we'd love to hear from you. If you're a person who believes in certain spiritual things, in fact, we're probably broadly saying theist in a way that includes other things that aren't theist. For example, if you don't believe in a God, but you believe in the magical healing powers of crystals and ice cream, which I could maybe be sold on the ice cream side of, we'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to hear your reasoning. If you're a believer in ghosts, you have spiritual experiences you want to propose to us and have us walk through with you, we'd love to walk through those things with you as well. So any theist caller we'd love to hear from. We've got some more atheists lined up, but again, that number is 720-619-2288, 720-619-2288. There's also a web link if you want to call more internationally.
And on that note, we have caller Matthew from Wisconsin. Pronouns are he, him. Welcome, Matthew. How are you? Welcome to the line. You're on the Sunday show.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Jimmy. How are you guys doing this afternoon?
I'm all right.
Yeah, doing okay.
Good. I called back at it must have been, I think, the first Sunday show of the year. I think it was January 1st, if I'm not mistaken.
It was January 1st.
I called was, yeah, and I called kind of because the next day I had a Catholic funeral to go to for my grandfather, and so that was the reason for my calling then. And I definitely appreciated, what you guys had to say then.
Hey, Matthew, are you in a situation where you could speak up, maybe bring the mic a little? Usually, I'm telling people to move it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. No. That's
it's all good.
I think I was just holding it farther away from my mouth. Is this better?
Yes, much better. Great, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. No. Thank you for letting me know. And so anyhow, I called back on January 1st, and Matt, you had said something that I just kind of made me chuckle then about when I mentioned it was a Catholic funeral, and I couldn't possibly repeat it what you had said, but something about just what the Catholics like to do and things like that. Well, I was grappling with the decision as to whether or not I wanted to go to that. Then I ended up choosing to go, and it was just, there was really no positive side to it. It was an opportunity for an evangelical uncle of mine to just, he just kind of grabbed me when I walked through the doors, and he was just so elated to see me in a place of worship. And he felt the need to tell me that, it just warms my soul to see you here, Matt. And I had an aunt who told me that I was hurting my mother, and then my grandma, who's the one whose husband passed away, kind of was holding me hostage right up at the front of the church, telling me how, you have family and faith, and that's all that matters. And your mother thinks you might be losing your faith, and all this ridiculous nonsense. And to cap it all off, it was the priest who gave the service was, I don't know, my age, maybe younger. I'm 33 in April. And this guy was a complete ham. I've never seen a hammier, cringy Catholic priest in my life. And the whole service was just dedicated to talking about, how people go to hell, who's going to hell and for what reason. So it was just all very, very, it was just a huge fucking waste of time.
Wow.
And now my mom came to me a day or two ago, a couple of days ago, letting me know, oh, well, there's going to be a memorial service for your grandpa 2 weeks from today, and followed by, food afterwards. And it's like, I don't know why I still have like this part of me that's like, I mean, ultimately, I think if I choose not to, I'm not going to be very, like, sit her down, have a chat with her. I'm just going to simply let the day come and go and not talk about it. But I've just kind of become convinced that, I suffered through the first service, and I don't understand why there is this follow-up service. But I don't know. But the reason that I was calling was I'm just curious to hear, other people's thoughts on the matter. And I don't know if there is any utility in me calling, to be perfectly honest. And maybe, you guys would be better off talking to somebody else. But yeah, this is kind of my situation, and it's exhausting. My family is just nuts, in a sense.
Yeah, it's wow. I wish I had something to add, but it's like I'll just say yes, and it's annoying and difficult.
I mean, I think that it's probably more that you're looking for justification or maybe a good idea of a reason to not go. It sounds to me like you don't want to go, and so it's obviously there's always, you have to worry about the safety of yourself and what the result of that's going to be. But it sounds like when we talked to you in January and said, if you still need to do it to keep everything harmonious, then do it. And then they still use that as an opportunity to guilt you and shit all over you, even though you were there. So I would just say, don't go. If you need to make up an excuse of something that's good enough, make up an excuse. If you don't want to do that, and just say, yeah, I'm not going to go. I wasn't comfortable last time. I'm not comfortable this time. And I don't need to be lectured by someone fresh out of the seminary either. Whatever your version of that is, I would just say, don't do it. It is a very bizarre thing. I've never heard of this. Have a funeral and then 2 months later have an additional memorial. This is a sort of weird thing.
I mean, there, like in the height of COVID, there were things that were postponed until months after the event. Like that's what we did for my dad. He passed away in January of 21, and then the following summer we finally had a memorial for him. But this was a full-blown Catholic funeral and whatever you'd call the thing that follows after, and yet now we're having a follow-up memorial service. I don't get it. It's very new to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, in a practical sense, what do you think the real practical consequences to you will be for not attending? But and I'm asking that on twofold. Whether or not you think, there's going to be consequences from your family, but how are you going to feel about yourself? Those are the two facets that I think are most critical to making a decision on what to do.
Those are very good questions. The thing that answering the question, what am I going to think of myself? I think that's more pertinent. That becomes more pertinent if I do in fact go, because I get very upset with myself. Like I was upset with myself following the funeral because I basically, and the reason I felt that way is because the feeling inside was just, why did I why did I even bother for people that don't care about me? You know, so that's, you know, the feelings about myself, and versus, you know, like what am I like thinking about other people, other members of my family? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not at all. I live a fairly, you know, private life as far as my family is concerned, including my immediate family, my mother. But yeah, and clearly it's been brought to my attention, you know, more than one occasion. Like, you know, she's, you know, well, according to my grandma, she's worried that I'm losing my faith. My sister has told me, you know, that my mom has told my sister, oh, I'm sure your brother will come back to, you know, God one day or whatever. It's just like, I don't know if I'm like if I'm avoiding directness out of consideration for her, because I find it so inconsiderate when people try to pull me back, or they try to sell me their nonsense. And here I am keeping perfectly quiet, not trying to, I don't, you know, go to them and, you know, tell them, you know, your beliefs are irrational and here's why.
Matthew,
I just,
are you,
go ahead,
yeah, go ahead. I was going to ask Matthew, are you dependent on your family still in any way?
No, not really. Well, it's no. Truthfully,
okay, then it's time you tell
I have
them.
The means.
I would say that I'm going to say the exact same thing.
You tell them. You don't have to go to them and say, "Oh, your beliefs are rational," but it's time that you say, "Look, there are things that you do. I don't share these particular beliefs. I don't come to you and tell you how your beliefs are irrational. It wouldn't even have occurred to me to march in that way. And the way you decide to interact with me is causing a problem. Can we find a different way to interact where I don't feel like you're attacking me in my positions all the time? Because I don't think you would like it if I showed up to be like, oh, you're still believing in all that God stuff. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
You're going to have to stand up for yourself and be forthright with the people in your life to say, this is not acceptable. And it doesn't always have to be like at odds. I actually had a conversation today with a friend where we'd kind of grown apart a bit because of some conflict. And it was conflict that, you know, we weren't going to talk about. But talking about it is what actually allows you to progress towards fixing it. And now things are, you know, much improved. You may find that talking to your mom and saying, here are the things that I still value. I still value you. I still value our relationship. I still value life. I still value the memories of our shared lost loved ones and these interactions and all these things. So it's not just a stop talking to me about this. I had an incident with my parents where, because they had sent me a couple of different birthday cards that were absolutely not even passive aggressive, just straight up shitty, that I flat out told them after the second one, you don't ever need to send me anything like this again. As a matter of fact, everything that you send me in the mail, I will just throw away. I'm happy to take calls from you. I'm happy to interact with you. But the mail is an absolutely one-way communication where you get to write down everything, send it to me, and I'm now forced to be a passive audience or ignore it. And it's not like we're going to have a discussion about the card afterwards. It's not like we're going to have some kind of debate afterwards. And so if all you're doing is writing to preach to me, I'm just going to throw them all in the trash. I don't care if you include a check with all of them, which wasn't happening. But that's, you know, and when I did that, it didn't fix everything, but it allowed us to have conversations. And since then, granted, the bad cards were for my 40th and 50th birthday. So maybe for my 60th birthday, I'll get another shitty card, but I won't know because I'll throw it in the fucking trash.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, what you're saying, I do agree with what you guys are saying. Something else that kind of just popped in my head is, my mom, obviously, she is, if anything, just doubled down, quadrupled down, whatever, on her faith, in the past few years. It seems like maybe I'm, like lacking in my perceptions, but anyhow, so taking that into account, actually just telling her, Mom, I do not believe any of this anymore, or even uttering the A word. I'm telling a woman that I'm telling this to a person who is going to be convinced then that I will, spend all eternity in damnation.
Matthew, what's your plan otherwise? Is your plan to wait until she dies to be out and start advocating for yourself? Or are you thinking that one day a more convenient time is going to show up and she's going to get more reasonable and less radical and you're going to ease her into it? Because neither of those are good plans.
What you're saying. I do get what you're saying. And I mean, I quite unfortunately, me knowing myself, it would probably be the former, which is because it's kind of similar to how things, like with my dad. My dad passed away before he ever, heard it from me about my orientation. And I don't know if we would have ever. I kind of compartmentalize, like here's what this parent knows about me, and here's what that parent knows.
How old is your mother, Matthew?
61.
Did you say 61?
So 61, yeah.
Yeah, she may be alive another 30 years. That means you'll be in your 60s before you can publicly advocate for yourself.
I don't like restrict it. I don't. If I'm out in public,
yeah,
I am most myself. It's around the home, and unfortunately, I'm living at home. But again, as I said earlier on in the call, that I don't have to live here. It's just that it's like the smartest financial decision.
I think, Matthew, where we're at is Matt and I both come from very religious backgrounds. You'd have a hard time. We could play whose family's more religious if you want, with you and I. No. And I think for myself, I wish I had come out earlier, because the earlier you do it, the sooner you are past it at a basic level. It's going to cause strife. It's going to cause arguments. It's going to suck. You may decide during that. It could turn out that you have revelations about the type of relationship and the dynamic of the relationship. And it may be that you decide at some point that actually this is not the family I want to have in my life, but then also maybe not. You might figure out how to coexist and still be able to enjoy the time you have left with each other. And usually when you have those conversations with people and say, like, look, this is where I am and this is where you're at, obviously this is a point of conflict. Would you rather keep going with the conflict, or do we want to enjoy what time we have left together? And usually that's pretty effective after a while. So I think right now the thing is that we've basically already told you, and I don't think our advice is going to change with almost any amount of additional context. I think right now you're working through it yourself in the things that you're responding with, and you're sort of trying to rationalize and push them different places. And what I would say is maybe the next thing you need to do is sit down and literally do the cliche of write down at the top, coming out to my family as, you can say atheist or non-religious if you don't want to use the atheist word or whatever term, and make an actual pros and cons and figure out if you're ready to do it. But I don't think, I think Matt and I both think it's time to let them know.
Yeah. And a couple things I'd recommend real quick before we stop is obviously the Secular Therapy Project and Recovering from Religion, but also there's a book written by Greta Christina many years ago about coming out and why as an atheist. And there's stories in there that will make it probably give you some insight from someone beyond just me and Jimmy.
Yeah.
But on that note, I got to move on. I got callers on hold here, and I hope you take advantage of those resources and think about it. I think Jimmy's suggestion of maybe write it out is a good way to start thinking about it. But yeah, you're the one that's got to decide.
All right. Thanks so much for your time, guys. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Matthew.
Sure. Thanks. it's a difficult situation always in trying to figure out how to deal with family members. And I'm fortunate. My brother, by the way, is in chat, and I'm fortunate to have the brother that I have and some other family members I have. And by the way, despite the conflict with my mom and my dad, I'm fortunate to have my mom and my dad. I know people who don't have any sort of relationship with their parents, and I have better than that. So I'm not gonna. I wish it was much better. But it's not. I was just reflecting the other day that I haven't actually seen them since I don't know when the last time I saw them in person was. It was before COVID. And so, did I just get us demonetized by even mentioning the plague?
No, you're good.
In any case, it's been a long time, and I would definitely like to go and see them at some point. It's just not a practical thing right now.
Yeah.
But we have callers, including theistic callers, and one in particular that I'm looking forward to talking to. Ooh, excuse me. But before I do, there was someone named Russ who called in who was an atheist and wanted to talk about reasons to believe in the spirit world. And if you're out there, Russ, go ahead and give us a call back, because I'm in favor of potentially talking about that as long as there are some lines open. But we have Andrew in Florida, who's a theist who wants to talk about how Marian apparitions prove the resurrection. So welcome, Andrew, to the Sunday Show on the line.
Happy Sunday, gentlemen.
Happy Sunday.
So these visions are well documented, and I'm relating them to the resurrection. What happens with Mary in the modern day is pretty much what happened, I believe, with the disciples in the first century. They had visionary experiences and Paul as well, those resurrection experiences. One example involves a set of appearances in 1984. More than 1,000 people at one time saw Mary near a local waterfall, including doctors, lawyers, psychologists, and psychiatrists. And 500 of them were personally interviewed. So these are well documented by a person named Rene Laurentine. And he writes books describing these appearances. And one more example, in 1917, October 13, there was the cosmic miracle of the sun. And so a large number of Marian apparitions, a large number of people in Fatima, more than 50,000 attested to this miracle of the sun. And so I believe this is similar to what happened with the resurrection. It's still happening today. And this is not advocating for everything.
I believe it's similar. I believe it's similar to what happened with the resurrection as well, except that there's nobody who listed who observed a resurrection. I think that the best explanation right now is that we have claims that are not verifiable that many people believe and will attest to. My understanding is that with Marian apparitions, the only requirement is that the bishop over that area confirms that the Blessed Virgin Mary appearance was real, and that this is all that's required until either his successor or the Holy See contradicts him. So my question then is, for any reported apparition, what expertise does the bishop have in confirming that it's real, and what methodology, what test methodology does the bishop use to confirm that it's real?
That's a good question, because the bishop is
It's actually two questions, which is what expertise does the bishop have, and what methodology does the bishop use? Because if that's the primary criteria, that the bishop says it's real, we can't appeal to the number of people or anything else because those are all fallacious. And so I'm fine with the notion that there is a bishop there to determine whether it's real. I just want to know, what is his expertise and what is his methodology, because that's going to determine whether or not I'm going to take his conclusion as anything more than a self-serving promotion of his beliefs.
That's an appeal to authority.
No, sir.
Documentation.
And Andrew. So first of all, an appeal to authority fallacy is when you assert that something is true because an authority says so. No, I'm not appealing to authority, and you're in a fallacious way, and neither are you necessarily, unless you're saying that it's true because the bishop says so. Are you saying that it's true because the bishop says so?
I think the bishop confirms it because it's true.
Oh, no, that's not what I asked. Are you saying that it's true because the bishop says so?
It's true because the church says so.
Okay, Andrew, Matt, before you go on.
Now,
Andrew,
now you have committed a fallacious appeal to authority. Now, even though neither of us had done it, you got defensive when I asked for the bishop's qualifications and methodology.
Yeah.
And you tried to talk about something that you do not understand, which is the fallacy of an appeal to authority. And even after I explained to you what it was, I asked you if you were doing that. You didn't do it with respect to the bishop, but you did do it with respect to the church. And I'm sorry to tell you that whether the church says something or not, that does not mean that it's true. That would be in a fallacious appeal to authority. So can we backtrack to what methodology and expertise does the bishop have in confirming the appearance?
Yeah, I wasn't accusing you. That if the bishop says it, therefore it's true. That is appeal to authority. I'm saying that's not what I called in with. I called in with.
Yeah, but you're the one that you are the one
So
that committed the fallacy just a minute ago. You're the one that committed the fallacy just a minute ago. So let's set all that aside and backtrack and ignore your fallacious argument and answer the question that I asked, which is what methodology do the bishops use and what expertise do the bishops have in confirming that an apparition is real?
What I know as a Roman Catholic is that their authority comes from the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that you don't have any understanding of the expertise or the methodology used to confirm these apparitions. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't know how the church does it.
Cool. So why on earth would you believe something when you admit that you don't understand what methodology they used to confirm that it's real?
Because I'm looking at these Marian apparitions, these appearances, and they're well documented. All these people have been interviewed, and I'm just saying that's kind of like what happened with the resurrection. I'm using that to confirm my faith in not just the resurrection, but in the church itself.
So I'm sorry, Andrew, but nobody was interviewed about the resurrection. You don't have any eyewitness accounts about the resurrection, and you don't have any evidence for the resurrection. But when you say that you don't know what method they're using to confirm these things, and then you say you believe them because they're well documented, how on earth do you think they're well documented if you don't even understand the methodology to confirm it? What are you just saying that if a whole bunch of people say something, then it's true? Or actually, in this case, are you saying that if somebody reports that a whole bunch of people said something, then it's true? Because all of those are fallacies.
Right. I'm saying they're well documented by Rene Laurentine, who's not a Catholic. He's not going at it with the approach of the church, saying, "Oh, this is what the church says." He's investigating it. He has a degree in literature.
You're implying that the phrase "well documented" means well confirmed. Andrew, the thing I was going to jump in earlier with, because we're kind of getting there again, I remember the last call, and all I was going to say is, please just answer the questions that you're being asked by Matt, not the questions that you think you're more prepared to answer. Just answer the ones directly. And right now, we're also jumping over. You just think that this phrase, well documented, matter. I could show you hundreds of videos right now, maybe thousands, I don't know how many it's up to, of people on video. By the way, one of your examples was from the 80s where thousands of people saw it, but apparently nobody thought to document it with video when video existed back then, but whatever. I can show you hundreds, if not thousands now, of videos, and certainly tons of people in forums saying they saw lines of 20 or so lights directly in a row, too high up for a telescope to hit, but these things were clearly moving together in a straight line, and they called them UFOs and evidence of aliens. Hundreds and thousands of people. Turns out it's Starlink satellites. So we haven't even, whether or not thousands of people saw the same thing and then called it what somebody else called it, in this case a UFO or an apparition of Mary, it wouldn't matter. There are so many. This is why Matt's asking you about how did they verify it? Because thousands of people can be super wrong, like the thousands of people who misidentify IFOs as UFOs.
I have a bunch of questions too, though,
okay.
Andrew. So you mentioned Rene Laurentine, and that his expertise was in literature, right?
Yeah.
How does an expertise in literature prepare you to confirm a supernatural apparition event?
It's a well-educated person that has interviewed all these people.
No.
And he's putting the data together.
No. I'm sorry. The question was, how does an education, an expertise in literature, prepare you to confirm a supernatural apparition? I'm not aware of anything in a literary degree or literary studying. See, a supernatural apparition would require some way to confirm it. And if it's just a matter of literature, the truth is, I believe that Renee was nominated to serve on the Pontifical International Marian Academy and review documents. I don't see anything about him actually interviewing people, but even if he did, that's still someone with a literary degree, and that a bishop confirmed that the his Blessed Virgin Mary to Gladys Quiroga de Mota was worthy of belief in 2016, about a year or so before Laurentine died. But if you're talking about someone with a literary degree, what about that prepares you to investigate a supernatural apparition?
He's well educated, and
no, I'm sorry, you've said that before. I have no doubt. I have no doubt that he's well educated. I'm sorry, but you've said that before. I have no doubt that he's well educated on literature. Is he well educated on the supernatural?
Right.
Is he well educated on test methodologies?
I don't know of a degree in test methodology. I would have to say no then.
Okay.
Correct.
So because you don't know of a degree in test methodology, all right, first of all, that's irrelevant to whether or not there is one. But you cited only this individual, Renee Laurentine. We've now gotten to the point where we're acknowledging he's probably very well educated. He was always a theologian, and so he has a bias towards Catholic beliefs, was appointed by the Catholics to study this, and what he studied was writings about various apparitions, and that he had no qualification to verify the actual apparition itself. Are we agreed on all of that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Andrew. I'm going to let you continue, because I'd love to talk about this as to why it's believable. I appreciate the fact that you let me get the questions out and actually address them. My concern isn't, and I'm not asserting that Renee or anyone else is wrong. My concern is with skepticism and critical thinking. And so when we have a bunch of stories and people say, well, they're well documented, well, they've been researched by these people, it often plays as, you know how when you're watching a commercial and they'll put someone in one of those white lab coats and do the 9 out of 10 doctors say such and such, when the person in the lab coat is an actor, there's a propaganda aspect where you dress people up as more than they are. And I don't want us to dress Renee up as more than he was. He was probably a brilliant theologian with understanding in literature, but I'm not aware of any expertise that he had in science, in investigative procedures, and in testing for or evaluating the supernatural. Now that we've established that, for you personally, is it just a matter of, hey, a bunch of people who you respect have done their best to document these claims and therefore you find them believable, or is there something more?
It used to be that my own religious experience was enough, but that, then I went to college. That's not enough for me. These things are happening. These unexplained, like, it's not just apparitions, it's these exorcisms that psychologists can't explain why a person would drink their own pee and shout out in Latin. So
okay,
these things kind of
confirm I'm gonna pause you again.
Of a hell, and I don't want it to be true, but
I'm going to pause you again, because you're saying these things are happening. That is an assertion that you haven't founded. And when you talk about how exorcisms are happening, I'm sure that exorcisms are happening, whether or not they are actively engaged with something supernatural or something psychological is still an open question. And then you want to assert that psychologists don't have an understanding of why someone would drink their own pee. Now, let's pause for a second. Are you really suggesting that psychologists could not come up with any way, any reason why someone would drink their own urine?
And shout things in Latin.
No. Okay. Are you suggesting that psychologists don't have any reason other than they are possessed by demons for why someone might drink their own urine and shout things in Latin? Is that what you're saying?
Well, no. Well, the psychologists don't say
because you no stop. You said it, and then I asked about it, and then you added to it, and then I asked about that, and now you're saying no, that's not the case. So if psychologists can have an understanding of why someone might drink their own urine and shout things in Latin, then that is not evidence for or confirmation of the supernatural. So we need to set that aside, right?
Okay.
So what then, when you say these things are happening, I would agree with you that there are people who are either convinced that they are possessed or people who are convinced that someone else is possessed. That I agree. Would you agree that those people could both be wrong?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. If
we don't know for sure, we weren't there,
Sure. But we can all acknowledge that those people might be wrong, both the people who think they're possessed and the people who think someone else is possessed. If the people who think they're possessed or the people who think someone else is possessed, if they also believe in the supernatural expulsion of those spirits by through the process of an exorcist, does it matter? Is it possible that this individual thinks they're possessed? A priest comes along and does an exorcism ritual ceremony, which then convinces the person that they're not possessed, and now they're better, even though they were never possessed. Is that possible? I'm not suggesting it's the explanation for all of them. I'm just asking if it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
Cool.
Hang
on. I'm almost there.
Oh,
I'm almost there. Hang on. If it's possible that someone could think they were possessed and not be, go through an exorcism ritual and think they were better, even though they're no longer possessed. If it's, let's have two people, person A and person B. Person A is not possessed, but thinks they are and goes through an exorcism and gets better. Person B actually is possessed, goes through an exorcism and gets better. Person A and person B are in the same room, and somebody says both of these people were possessed and they both got better after an exorcism. Now that statement is clearly false from our hypothetical. But if somebody else says only one of these two people was actually possessed, how do we tell which one was possessed?
Psychologists are limited. They can only appeal to the natural. As a Catholic, I would say church, the bishops or the exorcists, they're there. They know the situation. They rule out psychology first. They let psychiatrists do their job first, and then when psychiatrists say this is
you've already said that.
Then
no,
they do their job.
I'm sorry, Andrew, but we've already established that the person performing the exorcism could be wrong, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have two scenarios. Person A was possessed, or person A was not possessed, and person B was. And in both cases, an exorcism was performed and they got better. And somebody is now saying only one of those two people was possessed. How can we verify whether person A was the one who was really possessed or whether person B was the one who was really possessed? How can we do that?
Oh, I see what you're saying. I don't know how I could. That's why I'm just going with what the church says.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you. You can't. You're just going with what the church says. But you've also acknowledged that the church could be wrong.
They could be wrong about things. Not
Sure.
faith and morals, but they could
so
be wrong
now-
about an incident, calling it.
Okay, I think you're wrong about that. But let's not sidetrack into whether or not the church is right about morals when the church is clearly wrong about morals. But that's a debate for a separate time. All we're talking about here is this exorcism thing. Is it possible that there are two people in the room? Well, we already know if there's two people in the room and you claim that both of them were possessed, that we could be wrong about either of them, which means we could be wrong about both of them, because there could be four people that we make this claim about, and three of them could be wrong and one of them could be true. I don't know that one of them can be true. At no point has anyone ever demonstrated that it's actually possible for anyone to be possessed. But we do know that it's possible for them to not be possessed and think they are. The notion that you're going to trust the church because in your view, the church has ruled out the psychological is patently absurd and defeated by your own admission about what could possibly be wrong. The church could be wrong about possession, could be wrong about demons. If no such thing exists, then they're wrong whether they think they've ruled out psychology or not. And the only way that we can say, hey, it is reasonable to conclude that someone was possessed is to demonstrate that possession is possible and show a mechanism by which we can tell the difference between someone who's actually possessed and someone who merely thinks they're possessed. You haven't done that. Nobody has done that. There does not appear to be any way of doing that. So what you're really saying, which we got to here near the end, is that you believe because the church says so. That's not good enough for me. It's not good enough for skepticism. It's not good enough for people thinking critically. It shouldn't be good enough for you. I understand that it is. I hope that someday you continue processing this and realize that you can't just believe something because the church says so and consider yourself a reasonable actor. Those things are in conflict. The church has to provide a demonstration that their conclusions are real and true. And if you sit there and you say psychologists are limited because they can only appeal to the natural, you're now engaged in special pleading because you're dismissing the only thing that we really truly know and understand, which is the natural. And you're asserting something that you can't demonstrate, that nobody's ever demonstrated, and then claiming it's real, and you're just going to trust the church on it. I will never just trust the church on a claim of the supernatural. I find it absolutely intellectually dishonest to do so, and I can't. I mean, it's not even like I couldn't choose it. I'm stuck. It makes me sad that people do, but I'm not trying to, be condescending or pitying, because I used to believe those same things. And then when I realized that I didn't have a good reason for it, I had no choice but to give it up. I hope that someday you realize you're not giving good reasons.
I want to point out, too, how conspicuous it is that you started with these examples of these anecdotes that you felt tons of proof and tons of people and tons of witnesses. And while the two of you have been talking, I've been looking through which apparitions the church accepts. And by the way, it's not even listed up at the top, these many thousands of witnesses. Listed much closer to the top are things like Mary appeared to an 11-year-old 8 times and told her that she was the virgin of the poor and that she should pray very much and that she would intercede on behalf of the poor and the suffering. So it is also conspicuous that most of these examples have very shallow levels of evidence or proof from them. There's also, after a storm, this altar where an apparition was claimed to have happened remained dry while everything else was wet. None of the things we have any confirmation for, that you're so far from believing in things with adequate evidence. I feel like it would also blow your mind to find out, by the way, even if every single apparition was confirmed, actually to our satisfaction, it still wouldn't prove the resurrection of Jesus.
Right.
Why? These are the same types of experiences that the disciples had and that Paul has. We have an extensive account of Paul giving his resurrection experience. This is very similar to these apparitions.
Andrew, if you prove that Jesus Christ lived and healed the blind, you still won't have proven that he is the Son of God and that the reason why he's doing the things are the reason he says. the explanation, again, if you confirm the apparitions happened, it does not confirm their source.
Each individual claim requires its own confirmation, because it's possible, for example, let's say that maybe Jesus existed and performed miracles, but the story got exaggerated a bit. That's not outside the realm of possibility. Jesus could have actually been magic and still not resurrected. Jesus could have turned water into wine and still not resurrected. But we don't even have any evidence that he did any of those things. It's just a bunch of claims. And so when you say, why doesn't it confirm a resurrection because these are similar types of things, are you suggesting that if I show you that sort of trick where I pull the end of my finger off, that because that's similar, and then I apparently saw a woman in half, and because that's similar, are you suggesting that we could lop my head off and it could come back on and I could walk around again? What appears to be similar is irrelevant to whether or not something happened. If you're reaching the conclusion that Jesus rose from the dead, and you're basing that on people saw weird things much later and perhaps before, can you not see that the seeing an apparition doesn't confirm that somebody else rose from the dead?
The way you put it,
yeah, the rational way.
Mary is Jesus's mother. Mary is Jesus's mother.
According to the story,
heaven, so these things.
According to the story, Mary was Jesus's mother, a virgin that got impregnated against her will. I don't believe any of that story. What difference does it make whether or not Mary was Jesus's mother as to whether or not Jesus resurrected?
It's not like two different religions or two different random magic tricks. It's
see, you're going defensive. You're going defensive, and you're ignoring what you were actually asked.
Yeah.
What difference does it make to whether or not Jesus resurrected, whether or not it was his mother? Wouldn't Jesus have had a mother anyway, whether he was resurrected or not?
What difference does it make that he had a mother?
No. What difference does it make that people saw? Hang on. Does seeing an apparition of Mary confirm that Jesus was raised from the dead?
Not necessarily.
Cool.
I'm saying using that to confirm the supernatural and the Catholic Church.
It does what?
What was that?
Did you say it confirms the
you're right. It doesn't. And the authority of the Catholic Church, not necessarily that Jesus resurrected, because Jesus could have resurrected and Mariology be false.
I want to make sure we're clear, because there was a hiccup in the line. You're saying that people seeing an apparition of Mary confirms the authority of the Catholic Church.
It confirms Mariology.
No. Why is it that you have so much difficulty? You stop talking. You said something. I tried to get clarification and ask about it, and then you answer a different question. All I said was, are you saying that someone seeing an apparition of Mary confirms the authority of the Catholic Church? Is that what you were saying? Yes or no?
That is what I said, but when it comes from your mouth, it sounds kind of. I'm trying to see the connection.
You can retract it. You can say that's what I said, but I didn't think it through, and now I realize that was wrong. That's all perfectly acceptable.
That's what I said, but
cool.
Mary and apparition doesn't.
I'm going to stop here, Andrew.
Okay.
I'm going to stop here because, and I'd love for you to call back and we can talk about it another time. But here's what's happened. You called in talking about all these apparitions and how they confirm the resurrection. We've now established that no apparition confirms anything but the apparition. It may act as evidence in a package towards a conclusion with regard to the resurrection, but the apparitions themselves don't confirm the resurrection. They don't confirm the authority of the Catholic Church. Your own personal belief about these apparitions and exorcisms come from you believing what the church says, while you don't have any knowledge of the test methodologies required or the methods or expertise of method used or the expertise of those using it. And so that's if you're fine with believing things on that kind of sketchy grounds, that's your prerogative, but it's not going to be enough for either of us. So what I'd prefer is to say, let's stick a pin in this. We'll take some other calls. You can go off and think some more, because what really matters is what you believe and why. But more important than that is, why should someone else believe it? Because you might believe it and be comfortable with the fact that, you know what, other people think this is a bad reason, but it's good enough for me. The real question that you need to work on is, why should somebody else believe it? Because I don't see how anyone should believe that Jesus resurrected merely because someone reported an apparition of Mary. That's not enough. There needs to be more, especially when I can't even confirm the apparition of Mary. And the best reference you gave was someone with a degree in literature. I want someone with some understanding of how we would confirm the supernatural.
By the way,
on that note,
my last note for Andrew is, if you decide that your standard of evidence is still more compelling than Matt's and mine's are, that applying skepticism isn't as good as trusting a high quantity of similar eyewitness accounts, it's going to be wild, because someday you're going to find out about Hinduism and you're going to have to convert. Because as far as number of apparition stories go, Hinduism has a lot more than Catholicism does. So there's a reason why we don't change our standard of evidence when we want something to be true. And I think that's clearly what you're doing. You want Catholicism to be true, and so you use a very low standard of evidence that you would not accept for any other religion. I presume. I want
to give Andrew the last word, and then we're going to move on to another caller, because I just genuinely want you to think about what was said and call in another time to talk some more. But I'll give you the last word.
I said that psychologists were limited only to the natural, and what did you call that? You called it a fallacy?
No.
During the call, I said psychologists.
Psychologists are limited to natural explanations.
Go back and look at it.
But the church, you said, can go beyond the natural. The problem is that nobody's ever demonstrated that the supernatural exists or that it can interact with the natural world. Psychologists are able to evaluate claims and the evidence in support of them. If you think there's more than the natural world, you have to demonstrate that there is, and that what is beyond the natural world, you have to demonstrate that it's real and that it can interact with the natural world in a detectable way. And then you have to show how you go about detecting when it is. Because, like, if I toss a coin and it lands head side up, under your model of reality, could God force that coin to land head side up?
Yeah.
Okay, so I could flip a coin and God could force it to be head side up. If I don't know that that's true. I don't have any way of evaluating that. How could we ever test a coin toss to find out whether or not God made it land head side up?
A bishop can't tell you.
Okay. I don't think anybody can tell me, but what you need to do is start with that coin toss and say, if God can force a coin toss to land head side up, and there's no way for us to ever know for any coin toss that's ever been thrown, when it lands head side up, we have no way of telling whether it happened that way as a result of chance and a fair toss or whether God did it. Extend that to every other claim of supernatural intervention. I'm genuinely going to stop here. No more last words, no more nothing. Just think about that, because if you come up with a solution for this, then you will have demonstrated supernatural causation. And all of a sudden, then Jimmy and I are now stuck with saying, okay, supernatural causation must be real. Now we have to include it amongst our candidate explanations.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Andrew.
Awesome.
Much appreciated. Bye, have a good day.
See ya.
Whew. That was way better than I initially hoped.
Yeah, the call that Andrew had called before with similar types of evidence, where it was as soon as you look it up, a lot of things were omitted from the strength of his evidence. I don't remember if it was Marian apparitions or what the specific thing was. I just remember as soon as I looked it up, it was like, oh, this is not what you're representing. So I probably would have gotten more frustrated
also,
in the call than you did.
In the past, I've pushed back on the numbers and stuff because people are like, oh, there were 5,000 people, there were 50,000 people, there were 500,000 people. Yeah. And what's happened is, for example, you can look up a list of these Marian apparitions. I have a list in front of me, actually. And, you know, there's pretty good chronicling of what the actual claims are. But when you say, I just scrolled and picked one at random. Our Lady of the Watch, 1490 in Montefigogne, Italy. An Italian peasant named Benedetto Peretto reported seeing an apparition of Mary on top of Mount Figogne near Genoa, Italy, on August 29th, 1490. Peretto said the Virgin Mary appeared to him and asked him to build a church atop the mountain. Peretto at first refused, saying that he was just a poor man, but he eventually built a small wooden structure, which in time gathered many pilgrims and is now contained within the Shrine of Our Lady of the Watch. The apparition is so named because Montefigogne, and my apologies for the pronunciation, used to be a watch point for the strategic observations of armies and ships. I get it. That's just the entry on Wikipedia. But there's a bunch of these. And I don't know how you can investigate something from 1490. You know, it's not like we have recordings. Oh, all of these people were interviewed. No, most of these things took place far enough in history that nobody could have been interviewed. What ends up happening, and this is why I agreed at the outset, this is probably similar to the resurrection in assessing accounts, is this. Since they can't talk to the people who are actually there, they talk to the people who heard the story from the people who are actually there. And if they can't talk to those people, they talk to the people who heard it from them. And if they can't talk to those people, they talk about the people who heard it from whatever story got passed around. Now, that's a fine way, probably the best way possible of reporting the information that we have that has been passed down. It is not a fine way of verifying what actually happened or even what the first eyewitnesses think they saw, which we already know. Yeah. Eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable. But instead, they want to appeal to 50,000 people saw this, and every single one of them was interviewed, and they were all truthful. And then an eagle came down and said, it's all true. The eagle being the Catholic Church. That stuff shouldn't convince people, and yet it does. And I know why it does. So we just got to keep pointing out where the fallacies are.
The funny thing is I actually can't find the 50,000 example that he cited in the official Vatican recognized ones. Maybe it's there and I missed it, but I couldn't find this alleged one with the thousands of, and there's only 8 approved of 386 apparitions. Only 8 are approved. There are 378 of them that the church went, okay, but we're not that gullible. We're not ready to put them on the top of the list. So yeah, bit of a,
and it's, you know, I genuinely appreciate the fact, and sincerely, I like the fact that Andrew addressed stuff and answered questions honestly. Maybe when we're not getting honest questions in the past, maybe sometimes it's been my fault for the way the questions were asked. I don't know. But at least if I don't want to keep expressing the frustrations, but it's genuinely, I ask a very specific question based on what they've said, and inevitably they answer some other question or direct off of it. And Andrew at least allowed us to kind of pull him back to that. And I'm genuinely appreciative of that.
I'm ordering my birthday dinner and birthday cake.
Sweet.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Cake is good. I would, but I have a guest in from the UK who thought we were doing a regular link show today and was going to come over at 5, but instead is going to go to 7. But we have more calls.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're a theist of any stripe, or you have some supernatural belief or some belief that, you know, Jimmy and I don't agree with, by all means, you can call in, talk to the call screener. And as long as you're someone who can clearly express what you believe and why, we're happy to have a discussion about it, though we tend to favor, and we'll always have priority for theist callers. So even though we had 3 callers on hold, Jackson in Georgia, pronouns are he, him, is a theist who thinks that tradition is a better basis for morality than well-being. So Jackson, welcome to the Sunday Show on the Line.
Hi, yeah. So I had called earlier at Talk Heathen. I thought that it was this show, but anyway,
It is not.
I had
It's
called
not.
because you had said to call back. You had said to call back when I had kind of thought about my ideas more because I was unsure about whether or not, I was pro or anti well-being, and
Right,
I
because
really think that I have decided and that I am anti well-being.
awesome. So you don't care about your own well-being?
Yeah, and like actually, I think that when I called before, I still kind of didn't get it. And what really got me to understand it is when I was reading the chat and someone said, if it was just tradition for whenever Jackson left his house, someone would kick him in the balls, he would want to change the system. He would not be so in favor of tradition then. But I think I would legitimately just accept the kick in the balls because I think it is important for me to be ignorant of my own well-being so that
Awesome.
society can continue to function.
So Jackson, you don't think your well-being is part of society functioning?
I do not. I don't think that, but not just
Okay.
me though.
No. I didn't ask for. I'm not asking for a lecture. I'm asking questions, and so far these have been pretty much yes or no questions. So you don't care about your own well-being, and you don't think that your well-being is in any way tied to society functioning. What do you do? What do you do to contribute to society?
Well, I don't know, man. Like,
Do you have a job?
Yeah, I work as a construction worker.
Sure. So you build things for other people. You weld, and so your constructions, do they become homes and places of business and things like that?
They usually become mines. They kind of negatively impact the world, but I guess you could say they make life's work.
Okay, but do they result in something that is productive for society, that earns a living, that allows, that contributes to society in some way? You're helping other people contribute to society.
I would say so, yeah.
Sure. So if you get sick, does that impact society?
No, I'd just be replaced.
Yeah, but if you're replaced, that replacement has to come from somewhere.
Yeah,
so
but like I'm not the only person welding. There's a lot of us.
Yes, I understand that there's more. I'm not suggesting you're the lone person, but if you get sick, that becomes an inconvenience for somebody else. You've got to call in sick. Your boss then has to call and find a replacement, right?
Yeah.
So whether or not you are sick or well impacts the lives of others, correct?
That's right.
Now, it's not going to be necessarily a devastating blow to those other people, but because it impacts their lives, your life has some impact on society, right?
That would be right, yeah.
Now, when you drive to work, do you wear a seatbelt?
No.
Okay. When you cross the street, do you look both ways?
Well, when I'm in a more urban area, but I kind of live out in the country. So the answer to your question is yes. I'm sorry.
Why do you bother to look both ways?
Like I've actually, that's what I've been thinking about lately. Cause like, I really feel like I just don't really care about that sort of thing. And I just kind of view society kind of like a statue that we're building. And I want it to be a pretty statue. So like, I don't know.
Why? Why do you want it to be a pretty statue?
Well, because I like that idea way better than like a growing tree, because I want society to stay the same. I think that the ideal society would be one that was permanent.
Okay. So should, for example, women be considered equal in your society?
Well, I think that if you ask me right now, I would say yes. However, if you were to ask me in the past before that had changed, I would say that it should not be changed because changing the established social order creates chaos.
I'm actually exhausted already.
This guy's not for real.
When you say something that is so stupid as to say, if you ask me that now, I would say yes. But if you ask me that before that changed, literally, as soon as you say now, that already implies that at some point it changed and your view used to be different. So adding in that rather pedantic thing, I can't take you seriously, Jackson, at all. I cannot remotely take you seriously.
I'm curious, based on like the first example you brought, and Jackson, 1 second. Based on on some of the first example you brought, if a person is a negative impact on society or a negative impact on the world, should they be removed from the world?
Only if it's the established tradition to do so.
What a load of shit.
Are you the chattel slavery guy?
Yeah, I was the guy that called about an hour ago, yeah.
And you
the
said,
one that talked about Haiti?
But you've called in the past and defended chattel slavery.
Not on this show, but on Talk Heathen.
Ah. Well,
okay.
Congratulations, because this will be the last call you make to any of the shows on the line.
Yeah, Jackson, let me just tell you this. It's weird to have a theist call in and present the type of nihilism that atheists are often given, that nothing matters, so we should only hold traditions, or I don't even know how to describe it. It's just, I'm glad that most theists aren't as full of shit as you are. And I genuinely don't actually think you are. I don't think you live your life the way you are presenting what you're saying is a good model to live your life. I think you are full of shit from the ground up.
Yep.
Well, like, I'm trying to live my life that.
Yeah, I don't
Goodbye.
care. If you hadn't beat me to it, I was on my way. Fuck off.
I was only waiting for him to open his mouth in order to drop the call. I would have dropped it beforehand, but I genuinely wanted him to open his mouth, because if he's going to call in and pretend to be something that he's not, I'm not convinced he was a theist of any stripe at all. He went off to go think about what he thinks about well-being and pretends that he doesn't care about his own well-being, but he does look both ways crossing the street. He's fine with taking a kick in the nuts every time he steps out the door. So anytime that he tries to call any of our shows, we are going to give him a virtual metaphoric kick in the nuts and not waste our audience's time with him anymore.
I already banned his number. Hey guys, I've thought about it, and I actually think I'm anti-well-being. I assume that means I can just rob you and you would never call the police. In which case, send me your address. I'm on my way with a bag.
Check the chat in vMix.
Can do. And
I think, ooh, that's interesting. Daniel in California, him as an atheist. Welcome to the Sunday Show on the line.
Oh, thank you. I called in a couple weeks ago. I was speaking with Jimmy about, like, I was talking about how I should kind of talk to my sister about being, like, more, skeptical. If you recall, it was, I believe it was Sunday.
Yeah, I think so. I vaguely, it's more your voice. I recognize your voice more than whatever the topic was.
Right. So I was discussing, I'm going to get to the topic of the call very shortly, but I did think about it. She wants to save up for a switch. So I bought her the workbook, The Fallacy Detective. And I said, okay, if you finish this textbook, I'll help you considerably with wanting to get a switch. And I think that's something that, if she kind of goes and, because my mom says all kinds of crazy shit that my sister believes, like, Tucker Carlson is my best friend. I swear to you, that's the actual quote. But
yeah, that's a parasocial fucking nightmare.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm kind of like presenting that. So if my mom kind of talks about that, she can kind of.
Hey Daniel, real quick, are you on speakerphone?
I'm on my computer right now because I do want to take notes.
Gotcha. No worries. Just saying.
Okay. On to the topic. Basically, I'm in a college class titled, the Bible as literature, studying the Bible as literature. The teacher's awesome, class is awesome. However, I'm going to be going into seminar this weekend, or not this weekend, these coming weeks for the rest of the semester, and we have to present a claim in accordance to what book we are given in the New Testament to study, because we already studied the Matthew, Luke, and John, the those main three, and I was shuffled between like Acts, Romans, Corinthians, and Revelations. I got Revelations basically, and I'm thinking for my topic, I want to claim that Jesus in the Revelation is a different character, and if he is not, then we should I want to compare him to non-canonical texts like those in the Nag Hammadi library, and kind of compare it with that and say, hey, talk about the consistency in that regard. However, I don't want to offend the Christians in that class, right? Because I think I brought up something like, I said like the character, the person of Jesus. And then the guy like said, oh, you shouldn't say that. I'm like, what? So
yeah,
I kind of didn't really understand where he came from. And that's why, Matt, you have like so many years of experience.
Sure.
I watch a lot of your stuff. And I was hoping to get your perspective on that.
Sure. So when you say the character of Jesus in the Revelation is different, are you saying it's only different from non-canonical books, or are you saying it's different from other representations of Jesus within the Bible?
So I was saying that his character is not consistent, or my claim is that he's not consistent with the character in the main, the big three, Matthew, Luke, and John, those three, if I'm not mistaken. And I want to kind of compare that and then say, hey, let's compare Matthew, Luke, and John to the non-canonical texts and kind of see the variance in that and if it can relate similarly.
So don't take this the wrong way, but I don't think you're ready to broach this topic at all yet, because if your premise is the character of Jesus is different, then it should be the character of Jesus presented in the synoptic gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke is different from the character of Jesus in John, or the character of Jesus presented in the gospels is different from the character of Jesus presented by Paul or whatever. But if your only point is the character of Jesus in the canonical gospels is different from the character of Jesus in the non-canonical content, that's a useless point that is irrelevant and has no value at all. Because if I were still a Christian, saying the Jesus in the Bible doesn't match up with the Jesus in the books that didn't make it into the Bible, I'm going to look at you and smile and say, wow, you fool. Of course not. That's why those things aren't in the Bible. Right. You might as well be saying the Voldemort in the canonical books of Harry Potter is different from the one in the fan fiction over at literotica.com. I'm just going to giggle. But now, if your point is that the synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, present a different character of Jesus than does the Gospel of John, then you're not alone. Countless people have pointed that out. It's probably the subject of theological PhD dissertations and stuff. When it comes to what you should or shouldn't say to not offend people, well, don't say pretty much anything that I would say most of the time, because that's going to evidently offend them. But when you say the character of Jesus, I would just change that to say the qualities of Jesus presented in the Matthew, Mark, and Luke differ from the qualities of Jesus presented in John. But it's not like anybody's going to be surprised by that, because even when I was a Christian, I knew and understood that. It's because the author of the Gospel of John had a different goal. Matter of fact, the authors of each of the Gospels, who we don't know, they're all anonymous, but they each had a different goal. Mark's was just to give a flat presentation of the story as it came to him. Matthew's primary goal was to make Jesus fit as much Old Testament prophecy, real or perceived, as possible. Luke was another one that's closer to Mark and ends up kind of between Mark and Matthew. And John's was about the gift of salvation and focused on those things rather than the events. It was more spiritual than that. None of that's surprising. This is why people get theological degrees.
I have to say, and I think it might be that you, because you had stepped away for a second, maybe it was from something at the beginning is the reason why I disagree with Matt a little bit on something here. You said this is a book, a class that is called basically reading the Bible as literature, right?
Right, New Testament specifically.
Yeah. Don't offend the teacher and get the good grade. Fuck worrying about making innocuous statements like Jesus as a character in a class called Bible as Literature, don't offend the guy giving you the grade, and that's the only person you should worry about not offending.
See,
Okay.
and but considering that the actual question was, how did he not anger the religious folks in the course? I was giving the answer about that, but also I disagree with Jimmy again. Happy birthday. That it's not just about not offending the person that's teaching the course. Because if I was teaching the course and you marched in by saying that Jesus in the Bible is different from Jesus in non-canonical sources, I'd give you an F. And if you
sure. The example that Daniel had given earlier was saying someone was offended by the phrase Jesus as a character, and he wants to avoid offending those people. And I'm saying don't avoid it unless it'll affect your grade. Yeah.
I agree with that. Don't worry about that offending.
Yes.
Right.
Don't live other people's religions. Don't stop saying ass because you have a Mormon neighbor and they might overhear you saying ass in your backyard. Don't do that shit. That's their religion, not yours.
Okay. And I think the point, like, I'm not trying to compare, I'm trying to compare the variance between the, what's it called? You use the synoptic and the, revelations compared to synoptic and the non-canon. Yeah.
Okay. First of all, the book is not Revelations. It's Revelation, the revelation of John. And second of all, the revelation of John isn't really relevant to the character of Jesus. So it's the Gospel of John is one of the 4 Gospels, and the other 3 are the Synoptic Gospels. And they're called that because the Synoptic Gospels basically tell the same story, and John tells a slightly different story with a different focus.
Okay.
And that's all the homework that I'm doing for you today.
Yeah. As soon as I heard the typing.
You taking notes.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thanks, Daniel.
The very, very quick question. Do you have any recommended literature, favorite books that you would recommend in regards to that?
I would start with earlychristianwritings.com as just to keep that reference in your back pocket. But my favorite book that might actually play into this is Lost Christianities by Bart Ehrman. Bart Ehrman got famous for writing misquoting Jesus, but my favorite and the best book of him, from him, sorry, Bart, who we should get on the show at some point, but it's called Lost Christianities, and it's Christianities plural because it's about the versions of Christianity that might have existed had other doctrines come to prominence instead of the ones that did. And it talks about the competing doctrines. So now you can branch out outside of the Bible legitimately through that book.
Okay, I am actually watching Bart Ehrman right now. He has a YouTube channel. I'm really, really into it.
Well, if you're watching him right now, you shouldn't be talking to me. That's a really bad way to do research. Be talking to one person and listen to the other.
Okay, and last question. Will you ever do another skepticism tour?
The Magic and Skepticism Magic Show Tour?
Yes.
I'm doing a version of that show at the Secular Student Alliance convention this summer, but I don't currently have plans to take the whole thing on tour again. Now that we're pretty much out of COVID, I could start working on that tour, but I've started other projects in the interim. It basically wiped out a chunk of it would have wiped out a chunk of my savings to start a tour late. But yeah, I might do one in a year or two. We'll see.
Okay, and Secular Student what? What was the convention?
The Secular Student Alliance. Secular Student Alliance National Convention. I think it's in July this year. I think it's around Ohio.
Okay. Ohio. Thank you so much.
Cool.
It was an extremely productive conversation. I really appreciate it, and I'll call back if I'm just kidding. No, not for you to do my homework. But if I have anything else, maybe I can get my mom on the show one day. She's also very spiritual. So I'd like to hear her talk about that claim.
Yeah. Send her our way.
Thank you so much, and have an awesome day.
Do not set your mom up to be embarrassed. I've had somebody do that before. But other than that, we're happy to talk to your mom.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day.
Bye.
Later. All right, Jimmy. I know we got some more calls,
Mhm.
and we're going to keep going for a while. We got an atheist and a theist, and so we're going to be getting to more of them. If there are more theists out there, by all means, pick up the phone, pick up the phone, and give us a call right here at the line 1-720-619-2288. And also down below, there should be a link for you to call the show online through that link directly below chat. I appreciate all that. Jimmy, have you got announcements that we want to get out of what all's happening here on the line over the next few days?
I should have prepped for that. Yeah, and by the way, as the caller was talking about the Magic and Skepticism tour, I was just thinking about how useful it would be if the line, say, had a facility near Matt where he could potentially, and that facility had a community area that maybe included a stage where shows could periodically like that be put on. But of course, it would require much more support on Patreon. So patreon.com/calltheline. And then after the show today, at 7 o'clock Central Time, I will be there. I'm going to send the link to other line hosts. I can't guarantee any will show up, but I'll be celebrating my birthday with patrons. So patreon.com/calltheline. Then I'm getting the roster up right now. As far as the coming week on the line, tomorrow Forrest Valkai is joined by Nominal Naomi on Skeptalk. On Tuesday, I will be joined by Bryce Blakenagel, big ex-Mormon night. Bryce Blakenagel is a wealth of Mormon history knowledge, like just an absolute encyclopedia of a person. This Wednesday, Matt will be joined by Shannon Q on The Hang Up, and Katy Montgomerie will be hosting Josie Caballero on the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And then as far as that Friday and Saturday, who knows? Maybe Matt or myself will wanna, and we will. That said, we're also preparing to launch some new shows at other times, some on the same days. That is over on a new channel called The Line X. I think the link to that is in the description. I'm sure Mods will be getting it up there here in a second too. And there will be some more adult-themed concepts, sex, breaking down purity culture and sort of sex-related things that a lot of people have a hard time as they're leaving out of religion. But we also are putting it over there to not risk this channel getting consequences if that channel gets false flagged by pearl clutchers, as they are wont to do. Other than that, I think the only other exciting announcement, well, no, we'll announce the following week, the next week. But yeah, a lot of good shows lining up this week. And I'm excited. I'm going to get a couple of days off. Arden is handling Wednesday and Thursday's show's production. I'm going to be able to start catching up on some Jimmy Snow content over on my channel. It's very exciting for me. And I'm going to get to start cutting things with my new saw.
I know I addressed this in chat, but I'm addressing it here too without mentioning names. Somebody said, bro, we're not, quote, pretty much out of COVID. We're nowhere near out of it. Please don't spread misinformation. And my reply was, how about you don't accuse me of spreading misinformation? We have vaccines. Restrictions on travel and masks are dramatically reduced, if not virtually non-existent. I'm comparing now to when I couldn't leave the house for 2 years versus can I actually go and do a show and interact with people, which I can, which is why I'm going to several conventions in the coming months. It's not misinformation to suggest that now is considerably different when everyone was sitting around and death was at a maximal.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's over. I'm not saying it's gone. I'm saying for better or worse, we have ways of dealing with it, and we are back to living our lives as close to normal as we are likely to be for a very, very long time. Don't accuse me of misinformation on this subject.
Yeah.
Or maybe any other subject without coming up with data.
But by the way, as far as a concept, what you're saying, that person was saying is ridiculous, because we'll never be out of COVID now. Like the flu and other things, it's now a permanent part, and that is unfortunate because there was a time when that maybe didn't have to be the case, and that was sort of forced upon us by selfish assholes. It may have been avoidable, but we'll always have it. It's a permanent part of existing now, which certainly sucks.
And moving on, we got more callers here. Kevin in Georgia is a theist who thinks atheists hold faith-based positions. So, Kevin, welcome to the Sunday Show on the Line. You're live.
Hey, guys. So I know you've had this conversation numerous times, just in general, but if I paraphrase and I get you wrong, stop me and fill in the blanks.
That's guaranteed.
Kevin, are you driving?
Okay. No, I'm in the car. My brother is
Okay.
driving.
Good. Okay.
Yeah,
just making
don't
sure.
worry.
Thanks.
Yeah. Oh, no problem. So I've heard a lot of times, like when someone calls and they'll say, like, okay, so if God or Jesus or whomever were to pop up in your bedroom and they tell you, hey, I'm God or I'm Jesus, I'm real, start believing in me, and they poofed away, and they've asked you, like, you know, would you start believing? This is where I'd want you to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I've heard you guys, I don't know about you in particular, but maybe people on your show or yourself say, I would have to first identify that actually was God, and then I would have to identify if God has those properties to be able to just poof in and out of my room, etc. Is that about right?
It's close to about right. Basically, if I were sitting alone in my room and I saw an apparition that said, I am the Lord thy God, you know, worship me, that in and of itself, I'd have to rule out delusion and other things like that. Now, what I've said most often is that I don't know what it would take to change my mind, but if there is a God, that God knows exactly what would change my mind, and it should be capable of changing my mind. So really, quite often, it's about the scenario that the person has presented is too simplistic to reach that conclusion. But I'm happy to say that if, in fact, the actual God who could demonstrate that he was, in fact, the actual God, showed up and presented that convincing evidence, I would believe. I wouldn't worship necessarily, but I would at least believe that God was there. Is that
Okay.
what you're asking, or did I miss it?
That makes sense. The biggest thing is that I wanted to piggyback off from that to lead into, like what I was saying as far as like having to prove his properties, that wasn't an alien, different things like that I've heard just over time, hearing snippets of conversation. What I wanted to piggyback off was that couldn't I use that same, how could you say it? Couldn't I question things the same way when it came to science? Like I heard someone say in regards to, we have proof that life comes about entirely on its own, even off of this planet. Couldn't I say, well, I mean, how do I know God didn't do that? Like you have the reason.
No. What you're doing in that scenario is when we have, let's say, scientific evidence for a position. Like, let's go back to what I did earlier. If I toss a coin, you could, and it comes up heads, and I say that was a fair coin toss. You could say, well, how do I know God didn't make it come up heads? Well, I don't know, but that's not one of the things we're evaluating. We're evaluating whether or not the coin came up heads, not how it came up heads. If somebody claims they're God, that doesn't mean they are God. I would need a demonstration that they were God. And if the demonstration were sufficient to conclude that they were God, I would believe they were God. I wouldn't say, well, I still don't believe you. And that's what you're doing. You're saying, couldn't I just, the scientific explanation say, well, I don't know that God didn't do that. That's fallacious reasoning, because you are saying there's another option and you are not able to present any validation that there is another option. It's like saying, if there's 3 people in a room and a gun, and you walk out of the room and come back in and one of them's dead, clearly one of the other 2 people picked up and fired that gun. You don't get to say, how do I know it wasn't magic? How do I know it wasn't a God? How do I know it wasn't an angel? How do I know it wasn't? Because you can list those things forever. That is not what skepticism is. It's not, no, I won't accept anything. Skepticism is, I am going to wait and believe what is warranted by the evidence. And all I said, if you go back and listen to what I said, was, if God showed up and claimed to be God, I would need evidence beyond the mere claim. And if God were able to present the evidence, I'd accept it.
Kevin, it's funny because you started to say something and I thought I was going to agree at the end of the sentence. And then you took a hard turn when you said couldn't I just say, I don't know, God didn't do that? I genuinely thought you were going to say, I heard somebody say that we have evidence of life popping up sporadically or whatever, scientifically, shouldn't I treat that claim the same? And I was going to literally say, yes, you should definitely treat that claim the same. And you should not take their word for it. You should get the evidence. You should go find out what that proof is and what the method of obtaining that proof was. And if that satisfies things, and then you just took it a hard left turn. Yes, the application of skepticism should not only be to religious claims. If somebody comes to me and says, well, science has proven the best, healthiest way to lose weight, because I get tons of those fucking emails. I get it, guys. I'm fat and you noticed. But anyway, you should universally apply skepticism. Now, what I'm confused about though, Kevin, and if Matt wants to stay on the path we're on, we can, but you told the screener that atheists hold faith-based positions on the subject of God.
I'd love to get back to that. We should definitely get back to that, but we've given Kevin a lot, and I want to give him a chance to address it.
We can clear that part up really good. To be honest with you, it's really hard to put everything I want to say into like a phrase or a question. So that's kind of a little murky. The last bone that I have to pick, and you'll see why I brought that up, is like when we talk about the supernatural. So like I said, I'm paraphrasing. So if I'm misrepresenting, stop me. But I've heard a lot of times where we've said that we can't really deem something to be supernatural. Like we would have to define what supernatural is. I believe I've heard someone say that before. My thing is that why do we have to make it complicated if we all agree what is considered to be natural? It's like it's natural for you to die. It's natural for you to use the bathroom. And if neither one of these things happen, if I live to be 7,000 years old, why is that me stretching out of my limbs? Why do I have to, create a method to get to prove that the supernatural exists if I do the opposite of that? Why is it not okay to say, well, there is something supernatural going on here?
Kevin, you haven't done the opposite of that. Are you suggesting that humans have a complete understanding of the natural world?
No. What I'm saying is that...
No, hang on. If we don't have a complete understanding of the natural world, then whatever phenomenon we find, we don't ever get to say, or let me take back the other. Whatever phenomenon we discover, we don't get to conclude that it is supernatural merely because it doesn't fit into the part of nature that we understand, right?
Okay.
So if there's part of nature that we don't understand, it's merely honesty and humility that says, I've experienced something. I have no idea if it's natural or not. All my position is on the supernatural is somebody needs to demonstrate that the supernatural exists, that it can interact with the material world in a detectable way. Once those two things happen, supernatural causes enter the list of candidate explanations for a phenomenon. We experience a phenomenon, we want to know why it happened. As soon as we have a demonstration that the supernatural is real and that it can interact with the material in a detectable way, then you get to propose supernatural causes for observations. But until that happens, you can't appeal to the supernatural because you have no knowledge that the supernatural even exists. And even if it did exist, you have no knowledge that it can interact with the world in a way that you can detect. And so it's just arrogance to presume, hey, here's a list of all the things we understand about nature. Because go back to ancient times, we didn't understand how lightning could happen. And so what did they do? They said, oh, that's supernatural. That's from the gods. And it wasn't. And every single time we've asserted that something is supernatural and we've found out what the actual cause is, it's never been confirmed to be supernatural. It's always a natural cause that we didn't understand. So just pragmatically, the likelihood is that if we find a new phenomenon, and any unexplained phenomenon is likely to be a natural phenomenon that we just didn't understand yet. But if in fact it was supernatural, it would still require us to say, the supernatural is real. Here's how we know it. The supernatural can interact with the material world in a detectable way. Here's how we know that. This supernatural explanation out of the millions of potential supernatural explanations is the one that is most consistent with the evidence. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's where I get confused because I've heard you walk through this before, and I'm following it 100%. Where I get confused is part of why, even as a theist, as a believer, the Bible is very murky because there's a lot of things that go on in there that we don't see happening today. There's a lot of things that have claimed to happen. You put me in a lion's den with a lion I've never met, I don't think I'm going to make it out in the next 24 hours. So, and that's just
I think you might, but I understand I understand that.
Yeah, you know where I'm going. So I don't think we, even though we can't explain those things, when these stories come up, we do kind of speak of them in terms of hokey, or I'm not going to say supernatural, but just something we haven't experienced in our material world. So how could we necessarily call it natural, although we haven't proven it to be supernatural, but we clearly in the back of our minds have to think so, because we wouldn't believe it if somebody made the claim if I told you I did any of these things that we read about tomorrow. Do you see what I'm asking you?
Give an example. Give an example of something that we are claiming that we should just go, that maybe that's supernatural.
Okay, so I have not, and I doubt you guys have, seen anybody depart seas by not building a dam or having some strong leaf blower or something like that. If I told you I did that, you have not, I haven't seen that in our natural world. So if I have not seen that in our natural world, it may not come out of my mouth to say I think that's supernatural, but I feel like by default, we're thinking to ourselves, that shit is not natural. You know
hang on, because you're saying if you said that you parted water, I don't care if you said it, I care if you did it. If you can't demonstrate that you can do it, I don't have to come up with an explanation for how you did it until you do it. And so you came up with an example of something we don't ever see. Jimmy specifically is asking, what is an example of something we see that you are convinced is occurring and for which the best explanation must be supernatural because we don't have a natural explanation? What are we seeing? Because you talked about something that nobody's seeing. That's just a claim. Claims aren't shit. I can claim anything.
Give your example. I have a thought after you do, though, if you've got one, Kevin.
Okay. Well, I can come to you quick, because at the end of the day, if I'm going to go by the logic Matt said, it's not supernatural if I have an explanation for it. It is natural. So I don't know anything that I could say I experienced in my life phenomenon that is supernatural, because I could pretty much explain every cause behind it, if that makes sense to me.
Yeah, but Kevin, here's the thing. I actually don't. So the thought I was going to give you is I actually don't think you even live by the thing you're proposing. Earlier, you brought up the example of if somebody suddenly lives 7,000 years, that we wouldn't just sit there and accept that. I think if tomorrow they revealed somebody's been alive for the last 7,000 years, not only would you hope that they did put them in an MRI machine and did start doing tests to find out why, because it has the potential to extend our lives if we discover it, I think you would also expect them to find that answer. I don't think your expectation, again, talking about what's pragmatic, every time there's this strange gap, it seems to be if we investigate it, the gap gets smaller and smaller, and it's because of natural and material explanations. I think you would both want them to investigate it as though it is not most likely supernatural, and you would expect to go, wow, this thing that seems wildly improbable, it turns out this dude found the right jellyfish. This dude's dad found the right jellyfish to impregnate, and somehow it's an immortal jellyfish person. You know, that's not the literal example of what the answer would be, but I don't even think you live day to day actually expecting your example to be a good example of when we should just go, well, let's not count out supernatural here. I think you wouldn't count in supernatural even close to first if we met a 7,000-year-old person.
To be honest with you, I think my first reaction would take it to be something magical, supernatural. Over time, I would instantly want it to be investigated. Yes. Where this conversation has helped me is that at the very beginning, when Matt explained how it would be fallacious to take that route. So as I was thinking about this, I don't have, a typical person to just turn and talk to. So that's the one thing I was not factoring in, is that it gets to a point where Now you're just denying what's sitting right in front of you, trying to go out of bounds. So I follow that, and I appreciate that. I hope you guys go ahead.
Yeah, no. For everything that we want to explain, we should always make a list of candidate explanations. And the things that get qualified as candidate explanations are things that we already know to exist or know to be potential causes for that. For example, if my house catches fire, an elephant farting in Nigeria is not a candidate explanation for my house catching on fire, my house here in Austin. So we learn things about causality and that it needs to be temporally close and spatially close, and that we draw a connection. It doesn't mean that an elephant fart couldn't start a house fire. Maybe it could under the right circumstances, whatever else. But we don't get to include that in the candidate explanations. And similarly, we don't get to include things like ghosts and demons and angels and fairies, or anything that we haven't verified to exist and be causal. What that means is that sometimes our list of candidate explanations is empty. Like something happens and we just don't know. We don't have any candidate explanations. And this is where we get into trouble. It's also where I think religion and superstitions and things, not that they're equivalent, but that's where they come from. Because when people are really uncomfortable with saying, I don't know what the cause is. And if we don't have a candidate explanation, that's a very difficult situation. It's the best thing we can do is get comfortable with saying, I don't know what the explanation is. And what scares me are the people who do think they know what the explanation is. Mm-hmm. When we look at this in the world and we're like, what's the list of candidate explanations? And I think it should be 0 right now. And somebody's like, it's definitely God. It's definitely this vaccine caused it. It doesn't matter what the thing is. Their confidence in the absence of, even in my perspective, a candidate explanation is where skepticism has failed.
Kevin, I want to ask you one question before we move on or let you go, but and it's pretty quick, and it's not a trick question. It's meant to illustrate something, because I think Matt and I will answer the same question. It'll show the difference between a religious mind and a skeptical one. If, let's say tomorrow you're attending the press conference where they go, here we have a 7,000-year-old man, and we've confirmed it. And they point to you and say, Kevin, you got to ask the first question. What's the first question you ask, Kevin?
Honest, I'm really trying to be honest and think of the first thing that would pop up in my mind. I think it would be, where the hell have you been? What do you eat? Like, how are you? Okay, how are you still alive?
Sorry, this was my fault. You get to ask the scientists or the presenters, the people with the 7,000-year-old person, not the person himself. I typed my question into chat, and I will push enter as soon as Kevin gives his and Jimmy gives his. Yeah.
Okay, so I get to ask the scientists that found this person.
The people, it may not even be scientists, the people who are claiming this is a 7,000-year-old man. What is your first question?
Okay. What step did you take to determine that they're 7,000 years old?
See, boom. That's also mine. And I'm glad you did that, because that's the right question. So you would begin your supernatural, this thing where you said your default would probably be, wow, something magical and supernatural is here. And yet you would begin with skepticism in the scientific process. How did you confirm this man is 7,000 years old?
Yep. That's the same question I had. Put it in chat and everything.
Keep going. Keep going
you're doing
from
fine.
there. Yeah.
I got you.
Awesome,
I
Kevin.
appreciate it, guys. And thanks for the time. I'll call back at another time. There's a bunch of things I could go through, but I appreciate your time. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Kevin. You know what call-in studio needs, Jimmy? And maybe whatever we switch to should have. You know how we can block calls and other stuff? Can we put stars on calls of people who have done legit, honest, good conversations so that we put them to the top of the pile?
Mark them. I can put, I'm just going to add great call to the notes.
Yeah.
Of that one. And so next time when it shows last time your note said this, we could see that.
And I would put that on this one, and I would also put it on Andrew's call from earlier, because these calls, they're not frustrating. We're genuinely, I wish all, like your birthday week's turning out great, but I wish all the shows and all the calls ever were like, hey, I don't understand this. Cool.
Yeah.
What is your take on this? I don't want to misrepresent you and paraphrase you. Please let me know if I'm getting it wrong. Boom, cool. I mean, all of those things are great. And when that happens, Jimmy and I are sitting here. I mean, don't get me wrong. Any fighting that's going to occur in a call like that is between me and Jimmy about which one of us gets to go next at the obvious point. And neither of us are going at the caller. It's great.
I'm going to let you take the next call without me because the ice cream cake is already arrived. I'm going to go put it in the freezer. Dinner's still a few minutes behind. I'm planning to eat while we do super chats, for the record. I'm going to do what I can never convince you to do. All right. I'm going to give it to you.
It's just too distracting. I'll eat for a challenge. We've got Tony. Pronouns are him in Los Angeles, has a question about seeing ghosts or images. Welcome to the Sunday show on the line. Tony, you're live.
Hey, what's up, Matt?
What's up with you?
Hello? Oh, man.
You having a good Sunday?
You know what? It's okay so far, but oh my goodness, it's the wrong time. I have to leave. I didn't even know it was this late, but I was just calling. I had a question for you, but before I go, I just want to tell you, man, I got mad respect for you, for the patience you have with these people. And like you said, if people were honest about everything, things would move a lot smoother. And nothing but respect for you, and I wish you nothing but the best, man.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it. I know you got to get moving, but you got time for your question?
I kind of don't, and I don't want to be rushing through it, but I will call back. And like I said,
call back next Sunday, or you can call me Wednesday night. I'm on the hang up.
On the hang up, okay. I think Wednesday it'll be better for me. But again,
That's
man,
great.
like I said, me and my girlfriend always sit here and tell each other, man, he got a lot of patience. And like I said,
until it runs out.
Something with the best for you, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And y'all give us a call Wednesday. I'll have Shannon Q on with me Wednesday. I got a lot of patience till it runs out, and then, motherfucker, fuck around and find out. But
that's right.
Not for you,
Matt. You take care, brother.
Thanks, Tony.
Right.
I actually, the fuck around and find out thing is, I have a T-shirt which I haven't worn on the show because there's a YouTuber who I'm not going to name, who I watch their content, and I really like this person. They have nothing to do with atheism. It's just genuinely joyful. I'm actually looking at a thumbnail of one of her videos now, but I love listening to her, watching what she does. She has on her laptop a sticker of Dolly Parton holding a shotgun, and it just says, fuck around on the top and find out on the bottom. And I loved that image so much. When I saw it on her laptop, I was like, oh, I want that sticker. But instead of finding a sticker, I actually found it on a T-shirt. So I have a black T-shirt that has Dolly Parton with a long shotgun, and it just says fuck around and find out. And it's like one of my favorite things.
I kind of wonder how much content the audience thinks this sort of gives it away. And I think we've teased it before, but I wonder how surprised a lot of our audience would be by how little atheist content you or I consume. It's 1%, maybe. Like it is.
Yeah, it's very small. I'll catch some of Jimmy's stuff, some of Seth's stuff, some of Noah's stuff, but not all of it. It's like, oh, did you hear this episode of Scathing Atheist? No, I absolutely love Scathing Atheist, but I didn't catch that episode because I do the hang up on Wednesdays. I do the Sunday show here. I do stuff in between. I try to help out with TACIS and other shows, but then in addition to that, I've got 50 snakes, a couple hundred rats, and other stuff in a hobby/business that I'm working on. And I have other things that I enjoy and like to do, and hobbies and all of that stuff. I'd rather I watch some really stupid stuff. Like, I'm not going to mention her name, but there's the woman I was just talking about. I don't want to. Okay. I don't want her tied to this stuff.
Sure.
She's one of the people who are like, I'll watch movies. I'm a millennial and I watch movies for the first time and react to them. And I genuinely, I love watching her. I laugh my ass off. It's so fun to watch her enjoy movies for the first time. Arden and I I watch her a couple times a week, and Arden and I just sit there and giggle and love her to pieces. And I don't want to tire of this stuff, but also I'm afraid to learn too much about her because I'm afraid I'll find something that I don't like. I just want to just enjoy the content.
Let me ask you this. Is there any category of content you were surprised to like? For example, I hated for years watching any kind of watch me play this video game content. Hated it.
Yeah.
And now two of my favorite channels, granted they're funny and they clip it down to the highlights, but are like, let's game it out and Up Is Not Jump. Two super funny channels where they just, the way they present, Up Is Not Jump's this chemistry teacher from the UK, and his voice is half of the job for me, but I'm surprised that that's the type of content I do consume. Do you have any similarly, are you surprised that you got into a type of content, or does everything make sense with your personality?
There were things that I didn't know I would like watching.
Yeah.
But there weren't things that I was really opposed to. I've always loved video games, so I like the gaming content. I like the speed running content. It's just, I didn't find anything like that. There's other stuff that I absolutely despise and won't watch. I've started watching some of the, like, I get annoyed by the watch Karens get what they deserve type videos, because some of them are interesting, but some of them are just, there's a limit to how much stupid and injustice I can actually put up with.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of them are also fake. And that's what annoys me when you're watching them. And it's like, oh, good. Now we're doing this on purpose for content. That's dope.
Most of the content that I watch is actually snake related. And reptile related. Like I'll tell you right now, I watch Clint's Reptiles. I watch Snake Discovery. I watch Brian Barczyk, who, by the way, just found out that he has pancreatic cancer. Any of you who are fans of Brian Barczyk and his content, it has a terrible survival rate. There's a new Facebook group promoting him. Brian has been instrumental in many of the things that I learned. Yeah, whatever you think about him, perfect or not, the guy just loves animals and loves teaching people about animals, and just found out that he's got pancreatic cancer. I would imagine that there are many people, including myself, who will be doing content to kind of help and promote Brian a bit. But back to the Sunday show
sure.
on the line. We have, what's that?
I was gonna say, pick a call. My birthday dinner, which I will begin enjoying soon, it looks like is about a minute away. So at some point I'll hop off again for a second.
Sure. I'm going to take an atheist call from Jack in Manchester. Pronouns are he, him. Welcome to the Sunday show. You're on the line.
Good evening, fellas. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad.
I can hear myself in the background, though, so you might want to turn that.
Okay. Let me try and turn you down.
Thank you.
Is that still an echo, or are you good?
I don't.
Testing.
I don't think so.
Go for it.
Beautiful. So I had really two questions. I don't know if you can read them. The main one is, so normally when you see these arguments on social media a lot, especially on TikTok, obviously I know the platform melts brains, mine included, but a lot of the arguments that these religious people have in general are unfalsifiable. And they're unfalsifiable to the point where they tend to just shut down debate completely. So it's things like, can you disprove that God exists? There's the classic.
Right.
Now, obviously, you and I both know that's impossible. You can't. We cannot do that. Our argument isn't that we can disprove his existence. The argument is you have to prove that he does exist.
Right.
But a lot of the time, it just completely shuts down the debate. You can't even get anywhere. I watched a Frank Turek debate the other day, and his argument was effectively the same thing, and there was no way that you could possibly, combat it. What's your go-to in that sense? Because obviously you've been a veteran of some of these debates for a long time. How do you sort of combat it?
How do I combat what? Somebody's saying something's not falsifiable, or trying to shift the burden of proof?
So for example, a lot of the debates you do, obviously some of them are just nonsensical, that you've done with certain people. But how do you, without sort of, again, shutting down the debate, how do you actually say to them, well, actually, that's for you to prove, and that's not my position? Because a lot of the time they straw man.
That's what I do. I give. So I've done tons of debates and calls. I try. So in a debate, I have no problem at all shutting down a debate. And what I'll tell you what I did that's kind of tied to this. Just in the very last big kind of public debate that I did, I debated a guy whose name is, I think, Posh Redneck or something. I think it just goes by Posh. And the debate was supposed to be, is Christianity rational? At no point did he attempt to defend, is Christianity rational? At no point did he define Christianity or give his definition of Christianity. And he really didn't even do anything about what rationality was. So he just completely avoided the topic of the debate. And after pushing him back to the topic of the debate multiple times, eventually, in the middle of the game, I stopped what I was doing, let him ramble on about whatever subject he was doing while I played a game of chess. Similarly, if someone says, it's not up to me to prove God, you don't have to prove God. Literally 5 minutes before we went live, or maybe 10 minutes before we went live, somebody on Twitter tried this because I was like, hey, you need to demonstrate. He's like, I have God-given conscience. And I was like, prove that you have a God-given anything. And that was the question that I asked. And his response was, why do I need to prove that? And I just went ahead and blocked him because I'm unusual in the sense that I get to debate a lot, more than probably anybody you've ever met. I get to interact on multiple shows for hours and hours every single week for the last it'll be 19 years in a week that I will have been doing this. March, I think it was March 13th, 2004 is when I did my first episode of that other show. And so that'll be 19 years in a week or so. And I've tried everything. And I'm fine with a variety of things. I'm fine with saying, okay, you don't want to address that point. Let's move the conversation in a different direction. Let's see if we can find something that is productive that might educate someone. And so it's just a feel thing. If I feel they're being too obstinate, like the people on Twitter who I don't know, who are desperately trying to retweet me and get some clicks out of me asking them to prove what they believe, I just don't engage with them anymore. But because I get more than enough engagement. And that may not be true for you or other people. It really, I mean, I hate to punt on this one, but it really comes down to, do you feel like continuing this conversation? Do you think that something productive is going to come out of it? Because if you don't, the only reason to continue is if you don't have anything better to do. And I always have something better to do. I could go play a game of chess.
So the recommendation then would be either switch it to something that actually you can get a response or an argument on, or just leave it because it's just, fighting against a wall.
Yeah, it could be. What I do, in a more practical sense of offering a piece of advice tied to what you just said, excuse me, is if the labels are getting in the way, I drop the labels. If the things that they've defined or failed to define need further clarification, then I interrupt and seek clarification. You got to remember, I'm doing this in front of an audience. In my head all the time is not me. Is the audience going to get anything out of this? Is there a hope that we're going to get a productive, conversation at some point? And if there's not, I'll hang up and I don't care about decorum or being rude or who got offended or whatever else. But I think if you go back and watch, like, for example, this episode, Jimmy and I both made really good progress with a couple of callers. And it's because forefront of my mind is, how do we teach our position and why we have it, or even our lack of position and why we have it, to the people who are watching? I wouldn't, like, no offense to Kevin and Andrew, who I thought were both really enjoyable calls that I had conversations with. Those two people, if I ran into them and they just started, they came up to me at a bar and said, "Hey, I've seen your show. Do you mind if we talk for a little bit?" I'd say, sure. And we could have probably had that same sort of conversation. There are other people who've called the show who, if they came up to me while I was out on the town and said, "Hey, could we sit down and have a conversation?" I would say sure, and then within probably 2 minutes, it'd be like, "Yeah, I don't have the time or interest in talking to you. Goodbye." I'm not the best person to ask, maybe because I'm weird, and you're not always going to be in front of an audience. I mean, weird in the sense that I'm doing a show.
My answer is almost identical too. It's I pick fights on Twitter, and immediately, as soon as it gets good, I go, "You should call my show."
Yep.
And let's definitely have this out. And then I'm kind of a dick to anyone who's doing the anonymous profile photo, anonymous username thing, where I'm like, "Hey, man, clearly you're very brave, and you've mentioned how easy it would be to own me in debate. Let's do that. Let's come own me. Let's do it."
I've done that. I did that on Twitter today. By the way, no slight to Jimmy or any of my other friends who are using assumed names. As a matter of fact, both the people on another show are using not their real names. I've been here for 20 years, pretty much, give or take. I'm going to round up under my own name, putting my own reputation on the line, doing tons and tons and tons of content for free, burning as much of my spare time, putting my health at risk and everything else. I know nobody asked me to do it. This is my personal obsession. I am not complaining. I love doing this stuff. Something's going to have to happen to make me incapable of doing this stuff before I will stop. I will have conversations like this until they put me in the ground in front of as many people as I can. I can't not do it. There's something wrong with my brain. Go ahead, you'll clip that one, I'm sure. Okay. Not you, but somebody will. There's something wrong with my brain that forces me to try forever to have these conversations. It's probably, if I had to psychoanalyze myself, it's probably frustration from never being able to have a useful conversation on this subject with my mom.
Yeah. For the record, I don't mind people having, when I said like anonymous profile photo and anonymous name, Jimmy Snow is not my legal name. I wouldn't say it's not my real name. Certainly, I wouldn't say Jimmy isn't my real name, because it is still my social name.
Yes.
In fact, if you want to deal real life consequences to me, you would find ways to do that faster using the name Jimmy Snow than you would with my legal name.
I'm not in any way suggesting other people don't have skin in the game. Yeah. I'm just saying I've been here from the get-go with all the skin in the game all the time.
I've been here for years. I actually tell a lot of people who do show, like, who launch new channels, and they're like, "Oh, I'll just make my channel name my first name, last name." I'm like, you probably shouldn't. You know, maybe just first name. You can say your name and stuff, but
hey,
wait
Forrest
until you
is
have.
In chat. When's he next on?
Tomorrow with Nominal Naomi.
There you go. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you say hello to Forrest Valkai in chat, and then tune back in tomorrow for Skeptalk. I apologize for talking over there, Jack, but we have to advertise.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep eating my birthday dinner.
Okay. I mean, I didn't even wish Jimmy happy birthday, so I'm the rude one. Let's be honest.
What kind of dick are you?
I know.
I genuinely don't care about my birthday, but I'm using it as an excuse to have wings and pizza on air.
Yeah, get one more question in, and then I'm gonna move on. Thanks.
My other question was, obviously, I'm from a country we've got our first non-white head of government in the stomach.
Yep.
And we've had, atheist or at least non-Christian heads of government before. My question is, do you think the United States will ever have a non-Christian head of state?
Oh, I think we already have, but I just don't think any have been public about it.
Well, it's interesting because if you think back to John McCain was suddenly Baptist, wasn't he, out of nowhere when he was campaigning, because it boosted the ratings. So
there's a bit of that. There were people in the atheist community who wanted to claim Barack Obama was an atheist, especially because his mom was an atheist. But when Barack Obama tells me that he's not an atheist, is in fact a Christian, I have no choice but to take his word on it. I will say he's one of the finer Christians that I've ever had the pleasure of having as president. And similarly, somebody in the atheist movement tried to claim that Donald Trump was an atheist despite his profession of Christianity. And I'm like, first of all, why would you want to claim him as an atheist? I can't. It's this thing of pretending that you can read what somebody's secret thoughts are. If Donald Trump claims to be a Christian, I've met shittier Christians than him. Not many, but I have. And I care less about what people's religious views are than how they act and their reasons for the positions they hold that impact us. My concerns about religion are because it doesn't seem to stay boxed up the way a lot of people would like it to. It does bleed over and impact the decisions they made. As a matter of fact, is your Prime Minister Sunak? Yes,
he's Hindu.
Yes, and I don't know him or his positions. The fact that he's a Hindu, I probably already like him better than if he were a Muslim or a Christian. But
Yep.
he may be incredibly problematic too, because Hinduism isn't without its problems as well. How do you feel about how he's doing?
Yeah.
I think the less I hear about him, the better. The less that you're in the news, the less that I need to read about you, the better. The less controversy there is. Get on with the work. I think the latest deal he's done regarding Northern Ireland has been tremendous. I think that's going to solve a lot of problems. I really think he's done well.
So basically, you're saying that a Hindu walked in and solved the fighting, at least temporarily, between Catholics and Protestants in Northern Ireland?
Ironically, yes. I feel I should rephrase my question. So instead of saying, do you feel that there can ever be a non-Christian president? Do you think someone would get elected campaigning as an atheist?
I might have a funny take on this. Not only do I think an atheist president will happen, I'd say if you look at the political landscape and the people who come to fame, I think the first atheist president I will probably end up voting against, because I think it will probably be a Republican bigot who will prioritize things like the trans panic and the like, claim that is some sort of secular reasoning for, in the same way that Christians like to or Republicans like to platform people who are against their own self-interest. I would say statistically it is likely an atheist presidential candidate will come along and it will do more well on the right before on the left if it's a part of the platform. Quiet atheist president I could see happening on the left, but somebody who's open about, I don't even believe in God, but here's why trans people are going to destroy your family, I think actually have a better chance on the right than the left.
Here's the closest I can get to answering your question without dodging. And that is, I think the first atheist president of the United States is alive today, and I don't think he'll be president, or I don't think she will be president, or I don't think they will be president until after I'm dead.
Interesting. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks, Jack.
Unless it's you.
No worries. You guys have a great rest of your afternoon.
Yep. Cheers.
Thanks, Jack.
Yeah, it won't be me. I just say that because I think it's a long way out before. Somebody in chat said some atheists are horrible, and they're absolutely correct. I know some people would include me in that, but I mean, I genuinely know some terrible atheists.
I might think most atheists are horrible, but not for being atheists, because most people are horrible and they don't break the mold of most people.
You terrible cynic. I don't think most people are terrible, but oh well. In any case,
I bet I could
Katy
make
in Nebraska.
Case. Go ahead. Yeah.
Katy in Nebraska. Pronouns is she, her. Welcome to the Sunday Show on the line. Katy, you're live.
Hello, guys. Hi. Happy birthday, Jimmy.
Yay.
Thank you. By the way, if Rob Tebow in chat agrees to call in and defend Jordan Peterson for president, I'll open a line for them.
And I'll use that opportunity to go to the bathroom.
I'm super nervous, guys. I'm sorry.
It'll be fine. We're in a great mood. Jimmy's having a birthday. There's nothing to worry about. We already like you better than most everybody else we've talked to.
So I have been a Christian for probably all of my life, most of my life, kind of to and from the church. Different times I stray. And I feel like right now, a lot of my beliefs are rooted in the fact that like I had a sibling that died when I was younger, and I just like that's why I hold on to my belief, because the church teaches us there's life after death, yada yada yada. And so I lead a youth group at our church right now, and I was just with them this past weekend. So I got to your show a few weeks ago. I met this guy named Jared. He's super cool. I started watching your show, and it just really made me question things. And so I guess I just felt the need to call in, because when I was with the kids all weekend long, I was almost in my mind just like, this is crap. Like, why are we teaching these kids this stuff? Because we don't even know if it truly exists or not, or if it happens. And I guess I just don't know where to go. Like, do you guys have any good resources, any good ideas? I guess I'm just very new to the whole, like, unbelieving. Is that even a word?
If it's not, it should be.
It is.
I right at the outset, if nobody says anything else and you never hear anything else, recoveringfromreligion.org.
Yeah.
It is a great organization. They have people with hotline that you can chat with in text and call. I'm good friends with the founder, Dr. Daryl Ray. We've had him on the show. We've done fundraisers for him. If you find nothing else useful from what we say, that is a site, an organization that will have resources and will have the time and opportunity to go more into what you need and what you're looking for. Apart from that, the stuff that I tend to recommend is find a local atheist group or secular group or freethinker group or whatever label, Oasis, Sunday Assembly.
I don't know if that exists in the state of Nebraska.
It's a slightly rarer, but you can reach out to organizations that are national, like the Freedom from Religion Foundation and American Atheist. And like, if I Google Nebraska atheist, considering I've done conventions in Nebraska before,
I was gonna say, I used to live right by Nebraska. There's lots of, even if you had to go, I don't know which side you're on, but Wyoming has an atheist organization. I may still be a member of it.
By the way, if the Nebraska State Director for American Atheists happens to be in chat, speak up and tag me, let me know. But I'm tossing those things out, Katie, because who knows what you specifically need. But I'll ask. You're having these doubts and questions. You're not sure what to call yourself. That's completely fine. What we call ourselves, what we is different from what we think. But if you're reaching that point where you're like, I don't think I can buy this stuff anymore. Is there a sticking point apart from just comfort that is keeping you from, well, I was just going to say being comfortable, which if comfort's keeping you from being comfortable, that's a problem. I don't even know how to ask the question I want to ask without kind of being overbearing. Is there anything left of religious teaching in your life that you're still clinging to as likely true or optimistically true or wish it were true?
I mean, I feel like it's more wish it were true, but I don't actually think it's true. I mean, it would be life after death. Like I said, with just my people that have passed away, those people that were close to me. Like, I think that's what really, I mean, honestly, has kept me hanging on for a lot of years.
Then I have good news for you. And this will be the scariest thing you hear today. In the way that I use the terms, you're an atheist. And it's A-okay, because whether you're comfortable with that term or not, the issue here is you seem incredibly self-aware of where you are. I don't know what your entire process was of finding your way out of those things. I know that, you said it was a more recent thing anyway. The things that you find wishfully true, I do too. I wish that I was going to get to go play cards with my grandma in an afterlife again. I would, few things that I enjoyed more that had no relevance to anybody else on the planet. They're not important. They didn't fix the world. If you could say, is there one thing that would be absolutely just for you that you could do right now? I'd play cards with my grandma. And that will never happen again. But she also lived to be 91. And she told me.
My grandma did too.
So I'm optimistic that I might make it longer than I suspected, especially since I had open heart surgery. But when she was 90, I went to visit her, and she was a believer. She and I never had arguments about it, but she did, have a quick conversation with me and a letter that she sent me. And I still have a letter that she sent me that's on my fridge right now, just a thank you letter for coming to her birthday party. But I sat down with her and I played cards, and we're sitting there at the table, and I don't have any kids, so I'm not going to have any grandkids. And she said, "Oh, Matthew, let me tell you, getting old as hell." And I was like, "I hear you. I'm getting older all the time. It's starting to register." She's like, "Nobody should have to live this long." And then she played her card for her turn. And I said, "I don't know, Grandma. I think if I lived old enough, if I lived long enough to be able to play cards with my grandkids and great grandkids, that'd be pretty nice." And she goes, "Yeah, you're right. It is pretty nice." And that was the last time that we played cards. It's a memory that'll be in my brain forever. And while it would be nice to play cards with her again, it would be nice to spend forever playing cards with her in some sort of eternity. That's a fantasy and wish list that lives in my head that does not fit with any actual religious model. And the baggage that comes along with something like a heaven and hell in standard Christianity is so absolutely repugnant, both with the hell aspect and with the heaven aspect, that I'm glad I have no reason to think it exists. I'm glad that my grandmother lived her life, and as far as I can tell, ceased to exist, rather than going on to live forever in either misery or as some praise puppet, because she was a lot more than that. And so I'm completely at peace with the notion that all of the evidence points to life ending when it's over, and that while I miss my grandma, the memories that I have of those times are worth not living forever.
Yeah, I agree. I think I need to try to find that piece as well, which will come, I'm sure, at some point.
Yep. Katie, I'd check out those resources. If you have other questions, by all means, call back or ask now. I don't want to try and shuffle you off or anything, but
oh no, that's okay. I don't even know if I have. I don't even know what my questions are. That's the thing. Like, I'm so new that I don't even know what my questions are or where to even start. So, but this has been very helpful. So thank you so much.
Katie, if I can give you one thing before you go. Also, don't, and you haven't said you're doing this necessarily, I just know a lot of people do it. You definitely need to separate the concept of deconstructing your faith from the how you feel about losing a loved one. Because there are people who feel like it's an offense to their dead loved one to question whether or not their loved one has really died and stuff. And so I'd even recommend, like, you don't have to start in the position of, I'm questioning my faith, so I have to address this specific thing and the feelings I have now. That can come later. Right. It doesn't have to be in the specific order of starting there. And it might be useful for you to put it in that order, because it was almost useful to me to do it in that order, because instead of having the moment of devastation where I then had to re-accept the death of every person I loved who had died as actually a real death, I more had the moment, instead of being super pissed off in a way that led eventually to activism, that I was tricked, that I was lied to about it, that somebody would basically try to Santa me out of grief. And that can be useful in its own way too. So just sort of saying, know that you don't have to go in that order. Just worry about finding out what's true and what's not true, and then see what naturally comes. But yeah, it's going to suck.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Remember, recovering from religion. Remember recoveringfromreligion.org. And by all means, call back, watch the other shows, ask whatever questions you have. You're going to be fine.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Katie.
Thanks, Katie. See, nothing to be scared of. We don't bite, mostly.
Not without a request.
We have one more caller before we move on to the Super Chats, which I'll let you steer on the Super Chats. I did look up Nebraska archives from American Atheist. I have not yet found an actual quick and easy, hey, we're the atheists of this area. And we could be under, oh, here it is, Lincoln Atheist. If you're near Lincoln, Nebraska, lincolnatheist.org has a website. And I don't know how up to date this is because the last event was listed as March 12th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., assuming that it's 2023. Is March 12th Sunday? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah. So this appears to be up. If you're near the Lincoln area, lincolnatheists.org.
If you're in West Nebraska, probably just see what Wyoming's got, because Lincoln's clear in the southeast of Nebraska. Yep.
All right. Final caller for today. Sam, thank you so much. Sam, pronouncing him in Massachusetts. Welcome to the Sunday Show. On the line. You're live.
Thank you. By coincidence, my friend helps run the Lincoln Atheists. His name is Ronnie.
Way.
He is the nicest guy you will ever meet, and he's super awesome, and she should definitely
what sort of supernatural intervention is this?
Yeah. If it turns out Katie's in Lincoln, I think we just yeah, you're right. This is the stuff that when I was a believer would have been saying, isn't the Lord wonderful? Isn't God great for bringing us together? We had a person here who was in need, and while we failed as human beings, the Holy Spirit saw that need and prepped us with an answer for Katie from Sam in Massachusetts. Thank you so much, Jesus.
In order to help her find her way out of religion.
Yep.
Before I start, I just wanted to say that to Jimmy, I know you hate compliments, but when I found your channel, Dear Mr. Atheist, it was a time on YouTube where so many in the skeptic community were these terrible conservative people and bigots and stuff like that. And I was getting frustrated with even trying to find skeptical and atheist content on YouTube. And then I found not only your channel, but then you started The Line and introduced me to so many other wonderful creators. And that's made me feel, I felt for a while like there would be danger of losing the term skeptic as one that I could wear proudly. And I really appreciate that you helped proclaim that and make sure that doesn't happen.
Sam, I am very uncomfortable with compliments, but if there's a compliment I can probably stomach, it is the compliment, Jimmy, the best thing about you is all the other people you made me meet. Is all the better people than you introduced me to. And I can take that one.
Good.
Thank you, Sam.
So the reason I called in today, I studied philosophy of physics in college. That was more than 20 years, my 20-year reunion coming up. So it's certainly not something I've looked into recently or talked about a lot lately. But when I was studying it, the one area where I disagree with you, and it's based on what I've learned from both studying physics as well as philosophy, is I do not believe that determinism is true based on the physics, and I also believe that the way that determinism is not true leads first to a view of free will that is true, and second, that view of free will is a definition of free will that is worthy of being adopted and should be used so that people who agree with that do not say they do not believe in free will, as both of you frequently do say.
I should clarify, because I think you're throwing this at me, because I think I'm the only one who's spoken as though I believe determinism is. I think I have been I think I have overrepresented my acceptance of it. I believe determinism is likely, and I can't fathom it being, even if people have brought in quantum physics says this, and it doesn't seem to be anything that would interfere with the physical, very larger things like ourselves. So I am more prone toward determinism and have yet to hear a good reason not to be on that side. And so just to be clear, I probably shouldn't call myself a determinist, but I guess as much as I'm confident in a lot of things, maybe I am one. I don't know.
Yeah.
Matt?
I'd be happy to...
I just want to hear what Matt's position is on it.
I'm good. You can keep going.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be happy to, for the sake of not boring your audience, it's not a physics channel, I don't want to go into too much depth, but I'm happy to go into as much depth as you're willing to let me go into. But the first step is basically Bell's inequalities. It's probably...
Sam, let's shortcut it like this. I'll just ask you a quick question. I had the choice of picking between pizza and let's say noodles. Those are both things I like a lot for my birthday dinner. I ended up picking pizza. For me to have picked noodles, for us to go back in time and noodles becomes my choice, is there anything external that would have had to have changed for that to have happened? Or could that have all actually happened within my mind? And no,
that
nothing
could all
external.
actually have happened. If you wind back time in the universe for some amount of time, and it's unclear how long that is. It depends on innumerable factors, how long you'd have to wind back time. But if for close decisions, it would not be very long. For decisions that aren't close, it would be a lot longer. Then the result of you making a different choice is entirely possible, and there is some statistical likelihood of all the different possible outcomes for what you could have chosen.
I think you're using the word possible in the way that maybe I wouldn't, because what I'm saying is all the factors. I don't
think I am, but
maybe all of the factors that went into me picking pizza. For example, that we tried this pizza place yesterday and it was practically a revelation. Like one of the things that I think you would have to change for it to have become a different choice would have been that experience, for example, and then the chances of me picking noodles go up. And that's an external thing.
Let me run through a scenario that I think will clarify the distinction.
Go ahead.
Let's say it's a close call. You're like reasonably close, right around 50-50. It could be one, it could be the other.
Yes, though we actually don't know when it's a close call.
Sometime after every relevant outside thing has happened.
Sam, real quick, you do acknowledge we don't actually know when they are close calls, because there are things that happen that we don't necessarily. Okay, cool. So you're saying it existentially is a close call, not at what I'm calling a close call. Go on then.
Yes, 100%. So let's say hypothetically it's a close call. We don't know if it's a close call or not, but and it's after whatever external factors that you consider relevant have happened. There are neurons firing in your brain. Those neurons have some energy, some precise time that impacts their triggering. Those quantities are not precise, and it's not just that we can't know exactly when the firing of those neurons occurs, or whether or not ones that are close to the threshold exactly how much energy they have. There is literally no fact of the matter in the universe about what the actual answer to that is until the event happens. And proving that is very complicated and involves a lot of physics, but that is the conclusion of the physics.
Okay. I have lots of stuff. First of all, I've been a compatibilist for years, but I don't tend to call the will that we have free anymore after a conversation with somebody else. However, so the neurons firing is what leads to the decision process in my brain, right?
Yes.
Do I have any control over those neurons firing?
What do you mean by you?
Whatever we're identifying as the self that you want to assert has free will, does it have the capacity, the control over those neurons firing? Because if it doesn't...
I asked that for a very precise reason. I was not just trying to be pedantic there. The reason why I asked that question is because you are those neurons. You are that quantum state that is indeterminate.
No, I am not. No, sir. No, sir. Stop and listen.
Sorry.
I am not those neurons. If I am not any individual neuron, nor am I merely the collection of those, nor am I the specific collection of neurons at that instant. Those collections of neurons may produce me, but do the neurons, does that collection of neurons have control, willful control over which of them are firing?
So the what you are is...
That's a yes or no.
A collection of many...
That's a yes or no. Does the collection of neurons...
Say yes, but it's very complicated.
So you're saying the collection... Yes. You're saying the collection of neurons have control over which of those neurons are firing. You know what? If you're not going to let me finish a fucking sentence, I no longer give a fuck. No, I don't give a fuck.
I apologize.
I don't care.
You did it like 9 times in a row. Sam, I think I'm just going to put down at the end, fundamentally, we don't agree. I know people bring up the physics stuff. I also know physicists who are, it's one of those things where I can find you the physicists who support determinism and I can find you the ones that don't. Everything I have from everything I've seen, anything to create any sort of internal randomness would have to do with the only things that might be random, and we don't actually know whether quarks and certain other quantum particles are random, just that they have the appearance of randomness, and we don't know that they
doesn't
are
allow for will.
Right, and we don't know.
Can I point out one resource that explains both the physics as well as the black
No,
hole?
no. If you try to say another word, I will just talk over you like you did to me to end the show in the most fucked up manner possible. I sat here and took notes, thought about it, waited, and began asking questions, and you fucking tried to drive a steamroller over me. You don't get to talk anymore.
Yeah, Sam, I'd say maybe try again another day. We'll see how it goes.
I appreciate both of you. Thank you very much.
I get it that people like don't, I don't know. It feels like if you've watched the show enough, you should know the number one way to piss either of us off is to not let us complete our thought, especially if you start answering a question, which you did. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but you were giving the rest of the context of the question and he started to answer it halfway through when you couldn't answer it then. The question wasn't complete. You'd be answering fundamentally a different question. Y'all just got
I sat here and I took notes and I took very specific questions because my view on determinism and free will has evolved as I gained a larger understanding of things. I'm still, in many ways, a compatibilist a la Dan Dennett, in which case I don't think that determinism and free will are necessarily in conflict. However, when you want to define the self as a particular state of neurons, and you want to try to inject that determinism isn't true. My other question, which I didn't get to ask, is if determinism is not true, how does that lead to free will? Because my view from the beginning, and I continue to hold this view, is that determinism is not necessarily tied to free will, that there is a variety of free will which can be viewed as is compatible with determinism. It's just not the free will of libertarian free will. But if you throw out determinism, that doesn't have anything to do with it. You know, if my view is that your will, free or otherwise, is not tied to determinism, even hard determinism, which I was only advocating for soft determinism in the first place, then now you're talking about neurons and neurons fire. And so now you're going to be talking about quantum indeterminacy, but indeterminacy isn't subject to the will. But now you're talking about randomness, but randomness isn't subject to the will. And so it gets to this point where you're asserting that a collection of neurons either controls quantum indeterminacy or controls randomness. And that was the question that I was leading to get to, but you wouldn't fucking stop cutting in to let me get there. So you can do it on another day.
We'll give it another try. Yeah, I don't know. By the way, this is a topic that I know is interesting to talk about. It doesn't matter. Yeah. It's zero bearing on whether or not we could have made another choice. We have the experience of making choices. Whether or not free will exists, you have no choice but to keep on living as though it does. It's truly, and so it's one of those things too, where it's maybe I would change my mind if I put a higher priority into investigating it farther. But it's one that, because it matters so little, I honestly don't. But again, I mean, the simplest way I can put it is the Big Bang happened and moments later, everything was set that I would choose pizza. That's sort of.
And I'm not convinced that that's necessarily the case. And yet still, I can inject quantum indeterminacy and randomness that maybe at some point later it became determined that you would get pizza and you still don't have free will. But it may be the case that you do have free will. It would have been nice to get to maybe the case on it. I know we're getting ready to go super chats. I'm going to slip away for a moment while you start queuing stuff up, but I will be back.
Absolutely. I'll do, boom. I actually did it right the first time this time. I kept, earlier when we've switched off, I kept putting the wrong window up first. Yeah. So we're basically, look, now it's about us. The people I want to spend my birthday with. There's a few people. I mean, I could shout out to some people who I love spending my birthday with. Honestly, yesterday was awesome. A saw that I have wanted for pretty much my entire woodworking career. I now have career, I say hobby. But Matt very kindly offered his truck and went and picked it up. So the reason why I'm not just going straight to super chats is the super chat window is a dual window and I don't have a way to keep Matt off the screen unless I'm solo. So Matt will be back in a minute. But Yesterday was fun. So just so everybody knows, we're just doing super chats for the rest of the show. There will be some discussions that are probably interesting, but at this point, it's just about saying like, it's my birthday. And if there's something I'd like to do on my birthday, it's an episode of The Line where people can send in their super chat saying, happy birthday, go fuck yourself. Yes, I did get a saw stop. Matt helped pick it up, and he and Arden came, and then my brother and his family came, and we had the same delicious pizza that I'm eating now. We had yesterday. And it was just honestly like a really nice, I've never made. So the thing is the fact that all of this happened around my birthday is technically a coincidence. Though in a way, when I figured everything out, I was like, all right, I'll do this for my birthday. I'll stop putting off this purchase because it I don't have a left leg anymore. I had to trade it in to be able to finalize the transaction. I had to give a leg. That's not true. But anyway, it ended up just being a really nice, pleasant birthday with people I like and hang out with. And that was nice. And then I got to start the birthday with another person I really like the actual birthday day. Got to FaceTime with one of my favorite people ever. And so, yeah, it was good. So Matt's screen is just black. So maybe I'm just going to try anyway. We'll just get going because he can fade it in and out as we go. So anyway, from here forward, we'll just do super chats, $5 or more until we run out. Yeah, someone says woodworking career is fine. Look, it's my backup career. If I disappear one day, it means I'm in my wood shop all the time. It's definitely it's the backup career, but it's still sort of a hobby. Anyway, $9.99 from
I have
Greg.
a question.
Go ahead.
Did you get the saw stop all put together and working?
Yes. So the base thing is, and there's an Instagram reel if you want to see me turn it on for the first time, but it's got the extension wings and stuff. I still need to put on the bigger extenders and the fence. But other than that, it has been turned on. The saw stop system without engaging it has been tested because it actually shows you there's a light that indicates even when it's not spinning. If you touch the blade, it indicates that it's detecting you touch the blade, and were it spinning,
I was going to ask about that. So, obviously, for those who don't know, saw stop is this amazing piece of technology that I view as almost magic because a saw is spinning at that particular rate. If you touch it with your finger or a hot dog or whatever else. Did you use a hot dog?
No, I did. I just used my finger with it not spinning.
With it not spinning. So it can tell when it's touched it, and it stops in like, I don't know.
Under a hundredth of a second.
A hundredth of a second or whatever it is. And so it makes it incredibly unlikely that you could cut your finger off, that you're going to get much more than a scratch or whatever. And I haven't seen one working, but I was like, that's got to be expensive to test because you got to, replace the brake and everything else. And I think, how much are the brakes? Are they like a couple $100?
No, they're like $70, I think. And if it is your hand that does it, they will replace it for free if you send them the brake because they want to do tests and diagnostics on it and stuff for some reason. They want the data.
So
out
yeah,
of it.
it's something I can't wait to see. And awesome. Glad that's working. All right, I'm ready for supers.
Greg Murkowski says, thanks for he show. I believe they meant the show. Do you know what I feel?
No, I think as long as it's two dudes, it's he show. We need to make sure the Sunday show becomes less of a he show in the future.
I'm going to let's see if one of these has a good topic to go on. Cause you know who now really needs to use the bathroom also?
Go for it.
Yeah, but we'll do a couple and then, or you can rant about whatever. Ukulele Carnage says, here's a birthday fiver for that sexy monster on the right. Well,
Sweet.
I'm sorry. No, now there's look, we've got a little Satan behind the thing over there on the right. Yeah. I have to assume that's what you meant. You knew it was coming. Let's see. Yeah, please don't.
It's one of those times when we really wish we were producing from my house so that I could just take control of the super chats.
Yeah, you know what's funny too is I told Arden, I was like, we should just set up Parsec so you can remote into one of my extra computers here and do it from there even when we're doing this, or Matt could do it from there even when we're doing this. There is a solution coming. Katie Looney says, happy birthday. March birthdays are the best birthdays. I think Matt would agree. No.
Yep.
I'm waiting for more go fuck. Okay, here's one. I Got Cookies says, oh, thank you, by the way. I Got Cookies, so generous. I Got Cookies is not, the thing is I Got Cookies is already one of the most generous people with their time that we know. And for you to want to also be able to be generous with your money is just very, very kind of you and very appreciated. Doesn't go unnoticed. Wonderful birthday wishes to a friend. I'm glad to know you. Have a wonderful birthday and go fuck yourself.
Cookies is now one of the, there's a short list of people who have participated on various shows and content over the years, whom, if I find myself at odds with them, I have to seriously check myself and what I might, there are other people where it's like, okay, I'm just right. But in this case, yeah, I might be wrong.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Very appreciated. I got cookies. You're the best. And anybody who doesn't recognize your value can talk to me. Tiffany M. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Go fuck yourself. Thanks for what you guys do. These are the ones I like. The person who said sexy earlier, it was very kind of you. All it does is make me start arguing with you in my head. Like, it's not a successful endeavor. Anyway, all things considered, says, happy go fuck yourself, Jimmy. That might be my favorite way it's come so far. Liz Chris, good old Liz Chris. Happy entry to Earth Day, Jimmy. Go hug yourself. The gas must have repositioned. It suddenly feels much less urgent. So I think we're good for another minute here before I have to run off. Zachary Martin says, happy birthday, Jimmy. Thank you for all your work. And thank you, Matt. Your work in the ACA helped me deconvert. Nothing but respect.
Awesome. Funny anecdote from yesterday, actually. Oh, and by the way, while it's Jimmy's birthday, Jimmy actually got me this Shure SM7B mic to replace the one that you guys are used to seeing, which is still here, my Bluebird mic, which is great. And I can actually switch to it so you guys can hear the difference. So here I am talking through the Bluebird mic, which is great and does good. It picks up extra noise from around the room, so there's a little more echo. Whereas if I switch over here to the Shure SM7B, that echo goes away and it's a little more muffled and rounded-y. I like them both, but I'm happy to keep using this one because it's the one he likes. But the anecdote from yesterday is somebody, I did my video about why I left the ACA. It's got, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of views now. Thanks everybody who watched it and for those who understand and blah, blah, blah. But somebody on there left a comment that said, could you please retitle this so that it says the atheist community of Austin? Because I'm an adult child of alcoholics and I was searching for ACA and your thing came up first. And I'm like, no, because there's the atheist community of Austin. There's adult children of alcoholics. There's the Affordable Care Act. There's lots of things going to be ACA. I'm not going to change how I label my video based on your inability to search. But if I came up in the search results, maybe it should be the adult children of alcoholics that need to change their videos.
Wow. Yeah, that's not very good algorithm. Hey, I want to do that. I've got the poll ready to ask which mic do you like for Matt more? But before we do it, you just did the audio test with speaking. Would you please do an audio test with typing?
Oh, yes. All right. Here's what I'll do. We're going to start here with the Shure SM7B, and I'm
the black.
I'm going to stay. The black mic is fist away, and here I am. Oh, I need to pull up the thing here. I'm going to type right here. I'm typing in the background. I'm talking while I type. Boom. Now I'm going to switch mics. Here I am, roughly a little bit away. Now I'm typing while I talk, talking while I type.
Don't let me down,
we already
chat.
know which one is better. I mean, we already know which one is better for the typing part.
Yeah.
Whether there's I don't think there's a massive difference in the speaking part, but it does kill off the room sound. Now, if I were to pull this protector off, all of a sudden, I think it would get. Yeah, it would be a little bit worse.
It's not that much worse. This protector is mostly doing things to your voice and protecting the hard P's and B's, and also it's why we can touch it.
I can blow right in the microphone. And it doesn't. Oh, I love that. No, it's better overall. I think my Bluebird has a place, especially if I was sitting here with a guitar singing a song in a room that was protected. I think the Bluebird would be better for that.
Yeah. So people know why I did this. I had one laying around. I wouldn't call it an extra one, but it's worth it to me anyway. I had one lying around the house. The only reason I did it was if you all saw the episode of The Hang Up where Matt had me relieve him for a pee break, I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice. This one accentuates the low end and has a lower noise floor. And even though everybody else was like, it sounds the same, it sounds fine, I was like, I sound like a bird. I sound like I have a little throat or something. And that's what caused me to go like, let's just try it. Anyway, I think we skewed the results by talking about it. It's basically what we predicted. But anyway,
I'm amazed it's not worse, not more against the blue. But the blue does. I mean, the Bluebird's a great mic. But anyway, back to super chats so that we're not here for until your next birthday.
This came in as a member chat on their 3-month. I had to, so when people do that, I do try to see them. I have to copy and paste the details in and send it as the line. Member chats aren't in the system that allows me to send them to the queue. It's unfortunate. But Sheridan Bernascone, member for on the 3 months, got a special membership chat. Go fuck yourself and have a very happy birthday. Well, thank you. Sheridan Berlusconi then also sent a $10 super chat and said, go fuck yourself and have a happy birthday, Jimmy. Thank you both for an excellent show. And then a popping champagne emoji, which is ironic because I don't drink. And Matt, I don't think you like champagne, or do you?
I don't, but I did have a sip of champagne the first time Arden and I went out for hot pot. It was kind of like it wasn't an anniversary, but it was a special thing. And she got a little 2-person bottle of champagne and I had a sip of it. It wasn't the worst thing ever, but it's not my thing.
Right. It's one of those drinks that you taste it and you go, of the drinks I don't like, this is more tolerable, I feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not a wine guy either, so sparkling wine and all that stuff, yeah. I think Riesling's probably my favorite wine, and that's because I'm a terrible diabetic who wants the sweetest thing possible most of the time.
I'd rather chase vodka with Welch's grape juice than drink wine, personally. Pancaking on $5 says accessibility suggestions for Jimmy: have call banner, black background with light text. Go F yourself in advance. And also Matt is here. So usually the black banner with white text is an accessibility for brightness thing. I understand there may be people out there who are the exception to that, but that's usually like what dark mode and stuff exists for, is to have a little bit less strain on your eyes. As far as readability goes, conventional wisdom is the opposite. Just so you know, I everything you're describing is production stuff, which means I Googled it at some point, and the least number of people will have accessibility issues if the things which they are supposed to be reading are black on white, just so you know. But I understand that least number of people, that means there are people who are left out. And unfortunately, when you're deciding text color, for example, you're always going to leave somebody out. But I promise to never do, I don't know, like pink on yellow, if that makes you feel any better. Pink text on a yellow background. Too Young to Feel This Old says, happy birthday and go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Everyone have a wonderful day. Shot Wench says, HBD. Wow. It took me a second to happy birthday and go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Thanks you both for making Sunday a much better time. Is that a universal shortening? I think that's the first time I've ever seen HBD for happy birthday. Makes sense.
I might have seen it before, but I really don't know.
Yeah. I've seen lots of GFYs on this channel, though.
Yeah.
Pibble Punk, not a theist myself, but I've got some friends who are neo-pagans.
Bring them on.
It all seems silly to me, but they're good friends, and I want to be respectful. Then, well, honestly, are they good friends if challenging them isn't respectful? I'd ask that.
It depends. I would agree that it depends on how you go about it. Like, for example, I have some acquaintances that are pagans and neo-pagans, and there's a number of pagans who are incredibly pissed off at me for no reason, including trying to police how and where the word heathen gets used. And then I have a former friend who decided to cut me out of their life as a convenience because they knew they weren't going to be able to answer questions about their paganism, which is fine. I get it. We're close. Like I was saying today, I had a conversation with a close friend of mine about a point of disagreement that had kind of been a barrier between us. Despite what people think, I don't require that my friends agree with me in lockstep, and that, I'm going to cut you off if you're religious or pagan or whatever else. It's all about what you do with that. And so if you start suggesting that I'm somehow wrong and irrational and not able to see the truth of your proposition, then I'm going to ask you, okay, let's go through it. It was one of the reasons why I love that conversation with Andrew, because let's be honest, Andrew was calling in to specifically say that all of these situations, which have been thoroughly verified and documented, where people have claimed to see the Virgin Mary, that those are evidence for the resurrection. And it took a while, but I think we got at least to a point of clarity for the audience, if not for Andrew, that no amount of visions of the Virgin Mary will ever be confirmation of the resurrection. The resurrection is a specific event that needs its own evidence, but also that the reasons that he had for believing these claims of people seeing these apparitions were flawed as well. Doesn't mean they didn't happen. This is the hardest thing for some people to come to grips with. And in many cases, it's often identified as the fallacy, that you have this notion that because your argument is fallacious, therefore the conclusion is false. And that is not the case. The conclusion can be true, even if the argument's fallacious. It's just that you have no way of knowing that the conclusion is true. You have no reliable epistemic warrant or rational warrant for accepting the conclusion of a flawed argument. And so all I was doing with Andrew and everybody else, and what I would do with my pagan friends or acquaintances, is push back and say, what is your claim and how did you go about demonstrating it? Because if your conclusion is the result of a fallacy, whether it's true or not, you don't have good reason to believe it, and neither does anybody else. Hope you got some pizza eaten during my dialogue track.
I did. I wonder if we don't have to explain it is, but if I said one time on a call-in show, somebody that both of us know and don't particularly like gave the worst explanation of the fallacy ever, do you instantly know which event I'm referring to?
I don't.
Okay. I'll tell you later then, but if you saw it, I bet you would. It to me means you didn't see it. Because I think it would have come straight to mind. And this was definitely one of the times where it was like, yo, we got to start vetting the people on these shows a little more. I wasn't in charge of that vetting. So that particular
I'm pretty
one.
sure that the fallacy is one that I actually got wrong. There are, so I hosted another show for 18 or so years. And right now, actually, there's a 24/7 channel which will re-show some of those old clips to draw your attention. Some of them may be worth watching, maybe not. Who knows? There's a lot of good work done. But there are a few moments where people called the show and I got something monumentally wrong. I've offered clarification to these in the past before. There was a show that Russell Glasser and I did where somebody asked us about the ontological argument and we gave a response to, I think, the cosmological argument. And it was, whether we were both thinking incorrectly or in the heat of the moment, it's not like we weren't familiar with all those things. We just answered the wrong thing. There's another one where on one or two occasions I've accused somebody of just making something up. And I think the fallacy may have been one of those where I hadn't heard it used with that particular colloquial name. And I think I accused somebody of making it up. And trust me, when you accuse somebody of being wrong, and you are the one who is very, very wrong, that shit sticks in your head, and I will never, ever get the cosmological arguments, the ontological arguments, or the fallacy wrong again. If I do, you guys need to take me to a doctor because I'm clearly addled.
Something's happening, yeah. I'll give you just the brief version of the story. They were arguing with a person and it was an individual who I think both of us had tried to help get better at arguing because when they would be argued into a corner, they would start to flail in argument style.
A friend of ours?
Past friend.
Yes.
But not correct. Anyway, the person had said something along the lines of basically said the argument you just made was a fallacy. And the response was like, well, I could just say that calling out, arguing on the basis of it being fallacies, that's a fallacy. Did you know about the fallacy? And it was a very much a defensive, like, well, you said that's a fallacy, so I'm going to say calling out fallacies as a fallacy basically was the method of use.
I think I may remember something about that, but I definitely know who you're talking about.
Yeah, well, the impression wasn't bad. Anyway, just moving on. It's a joke. Nobody worry about it.
It's nobody you need to hear about ever again.
Yeah. It's not an active problem, but it is more pointing out, get your fallacies correct if you're going to start calling them out for sure. for sure. For example, an earlier caller who desperately needs to understand the application of the appeal to authority.
Right.
Because now you get lots of atheists who are douches about it too. And this wasn't an atheist caller. I've seen atheists just say, you mentioned an authority, therefore appeal to authority, fallacious, I win. It's pretty bad. Anyway, Pipplepunk says, not a theist myself, but I've got some friends who are neo-pagans. It's all seems silly to me, but they're good friends and I want to be respectful. I think that's the one we just read and I read it again. Yep. $10 from James Call. Happy B-Day, Jimmy. Fuck you. Well, fuck you. That's the fallacy. No, I'm kidding. That was nice. Thank you. DJ says, what do you guys think of Bill Nye versus Ken Ham debate? I liked it.
This was easy. At the time that it happened, Beth and I were still married and we watched it in the same house in 2 different rooms because I had to be upstairs in my office with the door closed to not be so annoyingly loud as she watched it downstairs while doing other things. I was opposed to Bill doing that debate. I'm aware of who helped prep him for that debate. I thought he did exceptionally well overall, but I still think it was a mistake because I'm happier to have Bill do it, who's a science popularist rather than a scientist, because I want the scientists doing science and teaching science. But I'd also like Bill teaching science as well. I don't think it should have been elevated. And the reason I think it was a mistake is that when it was over, no matter what the outcome was, Ken Ham benefits because if he gets his ass kicked in the debate, which he did, then he gets to go back to all of his donors and say, well, the evolutionists are winning. We need more money. I'm not going to do a Ken Ham impression other than to say evolutionists. And if some miracle occurs and Ken Ham actually outperformed Bill during the debate, then he gets to go to all his donors and say, hey, we just did this debate. It's one of the most watched debates in history. And we did well. We just need more money to keep stuff going. And so there was no way that wasn't going to come out to benefit Ken Ham's ministry, even if he didn't wind up actually winning it. As a matter of fact, it was probably better for him in some ways that he lost because then he gets to keep saying, look, the evolutionists are winning. We need more help. We need more money. So yeah, I was opposed to it. I wish it hadn't happened. And what's embarrassing to me is that debate outside of presidential debates may be the most watched debate in history. Like I would be hard pressed to find anything other than a presidential debate that has been watched and was watched live by more people than any other debate. Debates don't draw crowds like that. I mean, even my not really debate, but discussion with Jordan Peterson, I think's only got maybe a couple million views. I don't even, I don't go look. It's not on my channel. And yet there were, almost that many people, I think, watching it live. But anyway,
I think at the beginning of this question, I had an opinion and you just changed my opinion. I find the thing at the very end is what I think might do it to me. Cause I was going to say, similar to you, there's a lot of considerations in that whole CV thing, but the I have a book meme might have been worth the whole thing, but now I actually am compelled to think maybe not.
I don't know. The world got worse after that.
I thought that was a joke because there's a clear, okay. It's not because of that. No, the world.
I get it. Post hoc or prop hoc after that, therefore because of it. But yes.
Yeah. Hey, the world's been going downhill since they shot Harambe. Let's be honest. Even though it was the correct thing to do. Ooh, I'm going to enjoy the comments because I will still stand by it. It was still the correct thing to do to kill Harambe. It's just super sad because he's awesome. Was awesome. Lucky Uranium. Enjoy. I'm just going to avoid the comment section for saying it. Probably get less birthday chats now too. Lucky Uranium says, hey, did you notice that on page 375 it says Jeebus? They mean Jesus, right? It's a Family Guy quote. 99 from Grumpy Ball of Sunshine. Here's $10 to the Humanism Fund.
Nice.
I almost want to. Yes. Okay. Supporting the channel is definitely supporting the spreading of humanism, because that is one of our high priorities. But I almost don't want to like just leave this unchallenged so that people think there is zero charity happening here. The money you send us, I think there is a way we will return the value to the community. However, there's just to be clear, if anybody read that and is thinking, oh, I'm donating to some sort of charitable cause, this is not technically a charitable cause in any literal sense. It's charitable in that I have a sad, desperate life without it. That's it. Derek Bunny, I thought that would get a laugh out of you.
And it's charitable in the sense that some of the money I get out of this, I donate to charity.
There's that too. Yeah. Derek Bunyak with 20 alleged dollars says, hey, Matt, I just want to thank you for changing my worldview. I was stubborn for years. I rejected the evidence, but in the end, your arguments convinced me to get a bidet. Thank you.
You're welcome. By the way, for those of you who aren't aware, I went to Jimmy's yesterday, and thankfully I did not have to poop while I was there because Jimmy has not yet converted to the cult of bidet.
That's not true. I have converted to that cult. I haven't had opportunity to install one yet, but I had one in Denver. Of course, I like them more.
Thank you.
I have to be careful because this is a rental and there's not convenient wiring available. So I only can do things that I can easily remove. Wiring. Oh, really? Well, that's good.
All three of mine, I own my house, but all three of mine, literally, you turn off the water, you unhook the water, you mount the thing on the seat, and you hook it back up to water, you turn the water on. It's powered by the water. Now, it doesn't have heat. If I got one that had heat, it would be like...
This is the thing I miss, is mine had a heated seat and heated water. And sometimes you want the warm and sometimes you want the cold.
So when I get to that point, I will replace the entire toilet fixture with one that has a built-in heated bidet. That one will go in the master bedroom here because visitors don't need the hot water. Wonderful. But I tell you, it wasn't until COVID that I switched to that. And it was because of the toilet paper crisis. And I've said it, Arden said it, almost everybody who comes over and uses it. I don't ever want to poop unless there's a bidet. Let me advise you, your sphincter will thank you. Everything will feel cleaner. Your life will be better. People will look at you and see your smiling face and say, what about this person has changed? And the answer is, you are now washing your ass on a regular basis in an appropriate fashion.
There's more one. So the best argument I ever saw, but then there's still something missing, is imagine poop landed in your hand. Would you just wipe it off with a paper towel and go about your day? But
yes,
this also points out, yes, you would wash it off, but you'd also use soap, which isn't a part of the bidet experience. So there is still some particle contamination.
Yes. When I can put a little soap thing in the bidet so that it dispenses a small amount of soap as well.
Yeah.
That would, oh my God. Now you're making me, I got my Shark Tank idea.
Yeah. It needs to be moisturizing. It needs to prevent, what's the word? Chafing and that sort of soreness that one can get. Though that's another thing. If you are a person with intestinal issues and you're using the bidet, a lot of people still use paper afterwards to dry up, but you're not using any amount of friction to remove anything in the area. So the soreness, the ass soreness, reduces dramatically. But I'll get a bidet on before you stay here for any long period of time.
That's all right. So I just want to make it clear. I know we've done an incredibly long show today and we're still going through super chats. We're very grateful. And you guys have been amazing and you hung through it. But this is the reason that you stuck around. This is the sort of bonus, important, life-changing content that you're going to get here only on the line.
That's right. I don't fuck around when it comes to matters of the ass. I just want to make sure that is clear. Lisa says, how do you guys keep it together with all the rights being taken away? I almost punched out a Christian at a bar. I find myself unable to stand their presence around me. Theists annoy me. Okay, I'm not punching Christians at bars, but the presumption I'm keeping it together is generous. I would work. And that's the most important change I've made in the last few years, where I lived entirely online, especially during the pandemic. Everything was content, and then I got an actual hobby. and I can go in there. I leave my phone out of the shop with me. I put some music on and I whittle. Literally whittling is the thing I don't do, but it's the funniest word in all of woodworking. So I whittle in my shop. What about you?
I keep myself entertained by, I'm kind of an obsessive learner. And so I constantly strive to learn things, and then I play with the snakes and rats and all of those things.
I would even say, like, I imagine some of the rituals that I see you do, and I mean this colloquially, of like playing chess before a show and stuff. That stuff I think is also important. For me, it's production. Pre-production as a ritual also actually keeps me grounded in the fact that I'm doing a show. This is for an audience. And sometimes I fail to live up to that. Every time I overreact or yell isn't always warranted. Sometimes I, after a call, go, it didn't have to go that way. That was not just about the color.
That's a different thing, because I'm probably, even now, even after doing this for almost like 19 years, it'll be next week. I'm obsessive about replaying the show in my head when I leave and going, oh, I wish I would have said that, or I wish I wouldn't have said that. I didn't have to do that. And you know, the frustration, I would say probably 90% of the time, the frustration that you see from me in arguments, I feel is probably warranted. That I will sit here and, 90%, but there's 10% that I'm just going to get it wrong. And probably the biggest thing that drives me is getting to the point where I can say, you know what, in the last year, that 10% of getting it wrong is down to 5 or 4%. That would be really good, of getting it wrong less. And the other thing is that a lot of the people who are hypercritical about this, and I don't know how you do it, it's because you haven't done it. Genuinely, people are like, oh, they're putting on a show. Yes, there's a show and you're calling in, but the people who know me will tell you this is me, and you know where you stand and all that other stuff. I'm not always as, funny or jovial as I tend to be on the show, and I'm not always as frustrated. A lot of times, what gets me, what eases the stress is playing chess. I played chess just a minute ago. As Jimmy's reading super chats, I'll play a game of chess because my brain can focus on several things. But we'll do it another day. Anyway, we got super chats.
Let's keep it up. Chakuseki maybe says, Jackson being the Hans Moleman of theism gets hit in the nards repeatedly made me laugh and sublate everywhere. Thanks.
Nice.
Yeah, that's I think I don't prioritize well-being. Okay.
I don't care about well-being. I think I'd be okay with getting hit in the nuts every day. I don't think I contribute to society. I don't think I matter. I can't believe you, because the people who genuinely don't think they matter aren't going to bother to call in to tell me about it. You have to have some smug sense of worth to think that calling in to talk about how you don't matter matters.
Yeah. I was going to add something, but yours was good enough. Doesn't need a cherry. Australian $5 from Hank says, the reason believers like Andrew don't answer direct questions is because theologians and apologists don't model or teach that behavior themselves. Totally agree.
True that.
I don't know if I ever read this to you. I should. So we had Canadian money a minute ago, and obviously we do this little joke on this channel where on occasion we'll call Canadian dollars alleged dollars.
Yes.
And did I already tell you the story of somebody who quit their patronage and left an exit survey, basically trying to slip in some transphobia under the guise of being offended by that?
No.
I'm not kidding. This is the exit survey. Somebody canceled their patronage and wrote, you guys are so afraid of offending people with pronouns, but have zero problems offending Canadians handing over their hard-earned money by calling it fake and sorta money. By the way, I can see what currency you pay in, dipshit. They weren't from Canada either. They were from America. But they're mad that We're hypocrites because we won't let people be shitty to other people by mispronouncing them, but we don't mind calling Canadian dollars alleged money.
It's so strange because, well, there's a lot of reasons for it, but wow, I have a hard time believing somebody actually, you know, like got upset about that or whatever else. I think that's got to be like fake.
No, what it is they just want to shit on, they wanted to quit over us at some point having a call over why pronouns are important and matter, especially, you know what's funny? There's a version of an alternate reality where people realize on call-in shows, pronouns are good to offer regardless of if trans stuff existed. Let's say no one in the world was trans. It would still be a good idea to put pronouns on because you simply do not know by a person's voice what they go by. And so it's sure you're going to guess enough of the time, but also there's enough of the time that the pronouns are a good idea anyway.
There's no way it's real. Plus people know I've spent a ton of time in Canada. I did a whole 10-city tour in Canada of the Magic and Skepticism show. I love going to Canada. I love being in Canada. I'd fucking move to Canada if I wasn't sitting here so busy trying to take care of the United States. And I would use their fake ass dollars and buy the goods and services. And I would then donate back to America and mock them.
And Kathleen Moncrief, being our #1 Canadian contributor on this channel, often references that joke and thinks it's quite funny. So fucking, that's what I need is Americans to stand up for Canadians.
That person's pronouns are dip and shit.
There you go. Fucking so stupid. Hank says, oh, we already did that one. Jen Mayer Davies says, with 15, is that pounds? That's pounds.
Yep.
Happy birthday, Jimmy. Thank you for a wonderful show. You both often keep up until the early hours of the morning here in England. Keep me up until the early hours of the morning here in England, and I love it. I'm also up until the early hours in both America and England at the same time. I seem to only sleep during the late morning to early afternoon. And it's miserable. Anyway, Sanguine Sonder says, happy birthday, Jimmy. It's my birthday too. Happy birthday, Sanguine. I wanted to let you know that you've helped me a lot. Ooh, excuse me. This is what you get for drinking sparkling water. A lot, and wanted to return the favor. So I'm popping my super chat cherry to make both our days extra special. Go sublate yourself. Yes, I will be sublating myself this evening. What would a birthday be without some sublation? That's right.
You're a master sublator.
I think so. I've never had a problem. Anyway, Soap and Clay says, happy birthday, Jimmy. Ice cream cake is the right call. I mostly got it because there were two things my parents would never let us do for our birthdays. And that was parties because they didn't want, I have a lot of reasons for it, but basically they just suck. And ice cream cakes. We couldn't have either. Ice cream cakes were too expensive. That's sort of understandable since we didn't grow up with very much money. And then parties were a no because the main excuse they gave is because then we are expected to let you go to other kids' parties. And we're not going to do that. So it was a whole thing. So anyway, I feel like I had my party yesterday and today I shall have my ice cream cake. I might start sending my parents melted ice cream cakes for their birthdays. $20 from the incredible Forrest Valkai. Happy birthday, Jimmy. I hope it's one of the birthdays of all time. It is one of the birthdays of all time.
Yes.
I can say that for sure. Jeanette Morecraft. I do love a turn of phrase. Jeanette Morecraft, 999. Calls are great when callers are honest and try to answer fairly. Loved show today especially. Yeah, I don't care for, you know when you can hear the smile behind their pedantry? I felt like that was happening with Mr. Doesn't Care About Well-Being. You can hear his smile over the phone, that he's just there to be a pedantic, I want to say cuck, but I don't want to shit on cucks. You know?
I don't need to get any more. I've already called someone a dipshit today in a fancy way. I can avoid name calling for the rest of the super chats until somebody pays me to call somebody a name.
By the way, you can all send super chats to tell Matt to tell me to go fuck myself. Matt, are you feeling like I'm leaving you out by not alternating? We can alternate. I wasn't even thinking.
No, I'm fine. I'm listening. I'm having fun. I'm playing chess. I like listening to you read them.
Thanks. Cool. I was making sure. I don't want
If there's one in particular you want me to read, just speak up, because I'm a professional. I can do this shit all day.
Matt and I have, I don't know if they're public about it. So we'll just say a mutual acquaintance who has ADHD, and being around this person has made me very aware that I don't have ADHD, as I've gotten to witness their attempt at multitasking versus my attempt at multitasking, which I pretty much have to be in a constant state of multitasking. And this is a person who you can't say, how are you, while they're working, or the whole thing falls apart. Anyway, a person we both love, and this isn't to stigmatize ADHD. I'm just saying I'm more
Keep
sure
going.
than
You'll
ever.
just say the name in a second.
Bob from San Francisco has ADHD. Yeah,
Bob lives in Killeen.
There's a lot of people who come on here and try to diagnose me with ADHD all the time. There are multiple reasons I'm certain I don't have it, and this is more of a, I guess, maybe some confirmation bias after the fact. Anyway, $4.99 from Raven 200. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Go fuck yourself and have a nice day. You too, Matt. Love you.
Thank you so much.
We like Raven. Rebus Wind says, you would think I would give more money for Jimmy's B-Day, but that will only make normal day Jimmy think I like B-Day Jimmy more, so I won't. Go fuck yourself really, really well today. Jimmy, hashtag ice cream is not cake, but the cake in an ice cream cake is. It's usually a layer of cake and a layer of ice cream, or multiple of each. I thought Rebus was going to say, I would usually give more money, but I always give more money. So to make it special, I'll give less. I thought that's where that was going. Steve Cross says, thank you, Matt.
You're welcome, Steve. And thank you. And, you know, I know we're going through these, and I know we got a bunch to go through and everything else. I'm greatly appreciative. I don't ever want to be glib about the fact that people are contributing money. I spent many, many years doing all of this. I'm paying to do all of this. And it's genuinely, like, I get overwhelmed sometimes at the fact that there are people who have benefited from what I've done and what we continue to do, such that they're willing to contribute their money. What you guys contribute lets me keep doing this, lets me stay focused on this. I get to do all the things I love and some of the things that annoy the shit out of me because of what you guys do. So thank you.
Hell yeah. Martin says, thanks for the show, Jimmy. Happy birthday. You're a jerk, a complete knee biter. My only pushback, my pushback is because of my bad knees, I can't get on my knees, and it's difficult to bite knees if not on your own knees. So
not if I put you all the way down flat on the ground and put my knee right in your face.
Right. But at that point, am I a knee biter, or are you a knee to mouth? Or I don't know what you'd call it, but it doesn't seem like that's me making the choice.
I'm not oppressed. You're oppressed.
These are my oppressions. I was just thinking about turning that into a parody song, listening to silly people talk about how oppressed they are and changing these are my confessions. But I think we're probably not at a point where people are asking for more R. Kelly parodies. So I'm going to probably not do it.
I got company coming over in 28 minutes. So I got a hard stop.
Let's we'll and I got the Zoom too. Friendly Neighborhood Steve says, happy birthday, Jimmy. It's my birthday week too. 45 on Thursday. You're a Pisces too, and I'm sure you don't care. I certainly don't, and I hope you don't either.
Pisces have never cared.
This is the funniest one of the night for me. Jimmy's Pizza says, they said I would be on a podcast. They said I would be famous. They did not say I would be consumed.
There you go.
Bryn Poo KC says, happy birthday. Go fuck yourself, Jimmy.
Fair.
Yes, thank you. $10 from Luke Ruiz. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Here are 10 real American dollars. And hey, Matt, thank you guys for all your shows.
Awesome. Thanks, Luke.
The best. Let's see. Steve Cross says, happy birthday, Jimmy. Go fuck yourself. I don't know how often I need to explain. Go fuck yourself is a term of affection. Don't worry. I'm not just being abused on my birthday. Faye says, Jimmy, go fuck yourself with your Saw Stop Christmas trees. Do I have one around? I don't. They're down. They're downstairs. Or no, I feel like there is one nearby. It's okay. They're wooden butt plugs. That was the joke. But I call them Christmas trees so I can make videos of me making them. Don't put them in your butt ever. If you ever, for some reason, if I die and someone finds them, don't put them in your butt. They are not safe. I had no choice but to send this message. Great conversations today, both of you. I assume that's all the butt conversations is what you're referring to. Chad T, $10. Thank you so much. Speeve Golden Calf, happy birthday. Also, Jeremy's chocolate is surprisingly woke if you look at it as hashtag only nut in men. So from the ground up, I don't know what Jeremy's chocolate is. Matt, do you know what that is?
No.
Yeah, I don't get the reference, but I bet you nailed the joke. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Wishing you all the best. That's $10 from D20. Raven 200. I used to get That's So Raven and quote the Raven nevermore a lot in high school. It was funny for the first day and then I got sick of it. Merry birth, Miss Jimmy. Go fuck yourself. But the Raven 200, you have to admit, occasionally it becomes funny again, especially if someone can surprise you with it. But some of those jokes that people say too much, the day comes where it like loops back around and you're like, okay. Teener says, happy birthday, Jimmy. Go F yourself. Chad T says, the Christian God directly causes the deaths of children and babies. My pro-life family refuses to acknowledge it was even potentially wrong. To me, it is obvious, but they won't consider it. Why? Well, God defines, God is Richard Nixon. I'm saying when God does it, that makes it not immoral. That's, going to be the basis of their argument. God's ways are so above ours. Remember this God who loves us, but then they like to compare us. Like, imagine being an ant trying to understand the ways of humans. Because, people love ants. But also because if they acknowledge it, they'd have to acknowledge their own hypocrisy. And there's little you can do to make a person's brain work quite as hard as they will make their brain work to justify their hypocrisy. $25 from El Gisson says, pizza and cake donation. Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Go fuck yourself. Matt and Jimmy love your work. Keep it up. I don't think we could stop. Just the form in which we do it might change. Matt, I imagine, will be doing this mostly. I'm very excited for the future that unlocks when we get a facility and can start doing some community. That's where I think my passion will be directed. There will still be content. The game show is the single thing I am the most excited for by a long shot.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that. I'm excited about NBoss.
Yeah. Lots of good stuff to come. But yeah, we'll definitely keep it up, though we might change form a little bit. Oh, apparently the Daily Wire made Jeremy's chocolate because Hershey's chocolate did trans women representation. Any opportunity to merchandise, honestly. I can't say that I'm surprised. Nor can I say that if I could merchandise things as effectively as they do, that I wouldn't. But, it's sort of shitty that it's on the back of their bigotry. I won't take that. I'm not going to do my merch on that level. Anyway, did I read this one? From Sam. Matt, I'd love to see you date Muhammad Hijab on morality and Islam, as Islam has many moral problems. Is this something that people could see soon?
I think they said they wanted to see me debate Muhammad Hijab and not date.
Did I say date? Sorry.
Yeah. I think I know who he is. I think there was a reason why it was suggested not to, but wait, is this somebody I've got blocked on Twitter?
Let me check my list. That's a joke.
Maybe. I'm checking right now.
Yeah.
Is it something? Oh, yes. I have Muhammad Hijab blocked because he's a dishonest interlocutor. Is it possible that somebody could still pay me to debate him? You bet. That may actually happen because engaging in a conversation on Twitter, I've got Cosmic Skeptic blocked on Twitter because I got tired of his fans coming at me about veganism every time. Well, not every time, but lots of times when I posted stuff. And yet I would still have lots of conversations with him. I even sent him a message saying, hey, I'm going to block you on Twitter because I don't like to do debates on Twitter, but if you want to have a conversation elsewhere, I'll be happy to do that. And now I see he's not a vegan. I'm not bashing him for that. I don't care. I'm happy to engage with a number of people, including some bigoted people. And I don't know everything there is to know about Mohammed Hijab and how problematic he is. But the fact that I have somebody blocked on Twitter doesn't mean that there couldn't be a debate. So we'll see who wants to.
Yeah, and I should say, there's always a price. There's always a number.
There are some people who, I mean, I suppose there technically is always a price. There's not a practical price that would get me to do certain things.
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to give me $23 million to, I don't know. I can't even come up with anything. Let's keep going.
But who would you turn down even for $250,000? I would debate almost anybody for $250,000.
Yeah, but nobody's going to offer me that either. Anyway, let's keep going. Okay.
That's fine.
There will be a price. At some price, I will do almost anything.
This exercise, I'm going to want to do it again with you on your couch sometime. I'll be on your couch, you'll be in your chair, and I'll just be like, all right, 75. We're just going to find where the number is and who the first person that's out is.
It also depends on how broke I am at any given time. I mean, if I have there's a particular snake I'd like to get that's about $3,000. I'd debate side 10 Bergencate if somebody wanted to buy me that snake, but
there you go.
It's no reason. And I don't think he's allowed to right now.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. J.R. Ward. I'm surprised I even know what you're referring to because I usually know nothing, but I do know. $20 from J.R. Ward says, happy solar orbit, you fucker. Great show, guys. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thanks, J.R.
Truly, it's nice to have a birthday and all of the support. I can't pretend that it's anything I put tons of significance on. Just reminds me I'll be dead sooner. Devin Writes Music says, I've been analyzing that song and have come to pretty obvious conclusions about what's causing the spiritual feelings. Happy birthday, Jimmy. Yeah, Devin, I sent Devin, so I mentioned that there's a song that like, people talk about like still being attached to religious music. And there is a song when performed by specifically a male a cappella choir called Come Thou Fount. And there's a specific Brigham Young choir that did it, I think the best, BYU, that if you listen to it, even as you hear the lyrics that are shit talking, leaving religion, the way the music comes together, you almost can't help but feel overwhelmed. And that's because of psychology stuff. But religion wants you to think that that's the Holy Spirit. And so Devin asked me about that, and Devin is in a relevant field and is analyzing the song Come Thou Fount by this choir for what psychologically is happening to you when those specific tones, the music that's built up toward, when those specific tones hit you, why you feel that that rise, which, by the way, also happens with lots of non-religious music. But yeah, anyway, just a fun little thing people are interested in. Beck, oh man, I've never asked Beck how to say the last name. I'm going to say Beck Vagnarelli because that feels like the way I will get in the least trouble if I've gotten it wrong, pronounced it wrong. Happy birthday and go fuck yourself, Jimmy. I don't know if I can do the Zoom hangout, but I hope you have a great night, and Matt too. Well, if you can come, I hope you do, but if you can't, it's all good. It's all good. Matt can't come, for example. LA Silver Surfer says, go fuck yourself in a nice way. If we start adding in a nice way, I won't now know when people are genuinely insulting me that they aren't. It's nice to just have go fuck yourself because I keep mistaking people who really don't like me in comments for liking me. Male MD says, Matt, I called you once as atheist from Kashmir. You gave me much hope as I was despondent about the burgeoning religious fervor all over the world. But since then, things have only gotten worse, and I'm wondering why.
I partially replied to this in chat, which is sometimes I'm wrong, but also I'm still optimistic. And so, yeah, lots of things have gotten worse, but I am still optimistic about the future. I'm not remotely despondent yet. So,
does that snake have a forked tail?
The one I just posted?
Oh no, so in the very first photo, the angle of the thing that curls up, it looks like the tail has a little finger, but then in the next one, you see that it's just the angle.
Yeah, the that's one pastel inchy super yellow belly dreamsicle. Don't get it. anybody who wants to buy me a $3,000 snake should definitely talk to me first so they don't get the wrong one. But I want to make sure I posted a picture in there. I don't think that anybody's likely to get it for me, but you never know. Somebody could just be like, I've got $3,000 and Matt needs, boom. And then I end up with a snake that I can't actually use right now.
I'm waiting for our millionaire benefactor to reach out and just be like, hey, you keep mentioning this community center and production thing you want to set up. Like, let's do it tomorrow. Where are ironically the atheist angel investors?
Well, some of them actually, some of the nice ones who I genuinely like got run off because people would take advantage of them. And my answer is good for them. I never asked any of them for a penny.
That's true.
I have different reasons for being, I mean, the mission is first.
I've also turned, in fairness, some people, not probably the same people you're referring to. You said those are nice ones. There are people who do buy access to creators among creators, and I have turned down almost every single one of them because that shit creeps me the fuck out.
They the number every now and then there'll be somebody who thinks that they can donate and then, you know, get me to dictate what content I produce or whatever else, and that's just not, that's never going to happen.
Or
but we do need a community center.
I agree. And the other one that creeps me out are people who want to give you private donations, mostly just so they can tell people you're friends. That creeps me out, and I don't do that. They don't ask like that, but I think you know the type of people I'm talking about. 2069 alleged dollars from Kathleen Moncrief. The bidet is the only God I will ever worship again.
And what's cool is if you get drunk and you're leaning over the bowl, you can rinse your mouth out after you puke. I'm kidding.
Right. Please. Yeah.
Jimmy got to look like I was serious. No.
Not like you were serious, but worried you got drunk and did do it once.
No, but so maybe this isn't a thing, but when somebody would get too drunk, when I was growing up, we'd always say they're worshiping at the porcelain altar. And so when Kathleen said worshiping the bidet, my brain connected dots.
Okay. I got you. J83 Cat says, go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Happy fucking birthday, it must be. For Harambe Rip, thanks for setting up this charity fund. Much appreciated. Sarcasm. I will say, actually, the right thing for Harambe would have to have never put him in that zoo in the first fucking place. But then once he's in the zoo and you have to choose between the life of a child and a gorilla, you do choose the child. That's my entire position. And I know there'll be people who are like, well, they could have whatever else, and those all came with different risks. Super Dan 99 says, I also have a bidet. I call it John Bidet Ramsey.
God, no.
That's awful. Here are a few more names my friends and I came up with. La Toilet Jackson, Bidet Russo, Peter O'Stool. That's pretty good.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you, Dan.
That's pretty good. Allegedly Human says, help, I can't stop playing Power Wash Simulator. Happy birthday and fuck you, Jimmy. Is this a real game? Have you heard of this?
I don't know. It sounds like what Arden and I do we have a game we play called Tub Cleaning.
Yeah.
Where we're cleaning out rodent tubs, but
yeah, head over to Matt's. He'll let you do Power Wash Simulator over at his place.
Power Wash Simulator is evidently a real game on Steam. Is it rated 10 out of 10? No.
So it must be one of those games where the satisfaction is clearing away all of the grime and revealing the thing underneath. I don't know.
But it was released in July of 2022. And then on the Switch, it came out January 23.
Perfect scores. Interesting.
No, it's like 76, Metacritic 76 to 84, and IGN 7 out of 10. So wherever I saw that 10 out of 10, it was, somebody had to be joking, but
was
evidently
it Steam community?
It doesn't suck. It could be. I don't know. Evidently it doesn't suck. So good job.
Yeah. Skeptics and Scoundrel says, happy birthday, Jimmy. Can you hear your bones yet? More importantly, can other people hear your bones yet? Yes. I don't know. Matt, were you with us when we were talking about it? When I was at your house and walking behind Arden and was like, y'all hear my knees? My knees make a very loud, audible sound on the stairs. It's pretty gross. What's funny is they don't give me a ton of pain, but they have it. I can't kneel on them. But otherwise, while they are loud, it seems like it's going to be a bigger problem down the road. Probably when it's grinded away so much cartilage that they aren't making noise anymore.
This one's good.
Yeah, 10 Canadian. Take my Canadian Monopoly money. Sorry to hear that you won't make the Baja Con event this year, Matt. Your reasons are understandable. I'm local to that event and will be attending.
Thank you. I appreciate the fact that people are understanding. I will say it's a little strange that I sent them an email to say that I wouldn't be attending and I didn't hear a thing back. So I'm not sure. They might still have me listed as being there. I'm not sure that we've officially removed me. Nope, my picture's still on their site, as is at least one other person who's canceled, and that's fine. I don't want to cause trouble for them or anybody else. This is a personal thing, and I appreciate the fact that people understood it, but I'm not going to be supporting Catholic charities, especially those that put their religious doctrine ahead of sound medical practice.
That's totally reasonable. 1999 from Raven 200. If that's the case, Matt, you can say, no, stop, you're done. Fuck off.
No, stop, you're done. Fuck off, Raven 200.
Oh,
and if you wanted it,
I see.
Yeah, if you wanted it more naturally, no, you're done. Fuck off.
I added some flair. I'm a terrible actor. Revis Wynn says, since I am using alleged money, I will give a little bit more. Go fuck yourself until... Okay, this is getting a little too personal.
Yeah.
Until orgasm, Jimmy, for disrespect our hard-earned Monopoly money in the Great White North. # every cake is ice cream cake in Canadian winter. Boy, I know it's fair. And I like some frozen cakes. Those Pepperidge Farm ones, whew, those are good. Katy Montgomerie says, also go fuck yourself with a massive ice cream cake. I did get around.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's an ice cream roll cake. It's like a big Swiss roll, but ice cream. From Baskin Robbins. Too young to feel this old says, some money for Matt to say go fuck yourself to Jimmy. Well, here you go.
Go fuck yourself, Jimmy. Go fuck yourself left and right, top and bottom, upside down, turn yourself sideways, and then go fuck yourself again. I would fire you. I would fire you as a producer if it weren't for the fact that I'm already sleeping with the other producer and I don't have any other options.
I just don't know what I did to deserve that. We could release that as a short and people might, if my acting was better, they might have thought it was real.
Sweet.
For real, I'm not kidding. I am a dog shit actor. It's why you don't see many like sketches from me. I'd like to work on it, but I suck. Quagma TV, getting you to say the words fart and butt because it's funny. Ha 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 ha, you said butt. And I said both T's.
Fut and Bart. Oh God, I can't read.
Futbart.
Futbart.com.
I don't know what it is. You probably shouldn't type futbart.com into your thing, but you do you. $10 from Ben Pingree says, I heard Matt say earlier he watches gaming content on YouTube. I'm wondering if he watches Game Grumps because for a while he would call the pandemic the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. Love you guys.
No, I got Backstreet Boys reunion tour from Sinvicta, who I don't currently watch, but I watched a lot of Sinvicta. He did Binding of Isaac runs. I watched some GDQ stuff. I don't know. A handful of other comics content, but I don't watch Game Grumps. Maybe I will someday.
The Game Grumps are individually funny people, and together they are funny people. They turned an entire generation of gamers into loud assholes. The number of people who are so annoying on mics and make any game that has community stuff remotely, like, it just makes it terrible because they are often emulating the overreact to everything way that Game Grumps does their stuff. And it drives me up the fucking wall. But I think they're funny, especially the guy with the long hair. His song No Reason Boner is one that I sing frequently. Dragon says, happy B-Day, Jimmy, and go fuck yourself. My alarm goes off in less than 5 hours, so screw you guys. I'm going home. P.S. Bidets rule. You should go to sleep. Get sleep.
Screw you guys.
I'm going him. RPG Debunk says, you know nothing, Jimmy Snow. That's very true. Happy birthday. Now go fuck yourself. You know nothing, Jimmy Snow. How much for a feet stream? I've shown my feet for free without meaning to be sexual many times on Instagram. But I can't really give much commentary there. However, on Twitter, and I'm committing to it, I did offer $5 million. I'll test my dick on the saw stop. A mere $5 million. Larry Fishman says, happy birthday, Jimmy. I'm laid up with a migraine, so have to skip the Zoom party. So go fuck yourself. And please don't test the saw stop with any part of your anatomy. Again, $5 million. I'm in.
By the way, I'll do it for $4.
There's nothing okay about what you are and who you do. Or what you do, I meant. Who you are and what you do, not what you are and who you do.
Oh, but for clarity, I meant 4 million, not 4, because that would have got me in big trouble there. It was a scar right on my Johnson just for $4. No, thank you.
I don't honestly, the amount of the shallowness of the cut that people sometimes get, I don't think it even scars. I think it just heals. I think you're fine. But I'll have super glue on hand just in case. That's it.
Before you close this out.
Yeah.
And we did great because I got somebody showing up in like 5 minutes. I can't wait to go hang out with them. It's a friend of mine from the UK, or an acquaintance of mine from the UK, who helped book a tour in there in the Austin area. Huge thank you to all of our moderators and the call screener and everybody who stayed with us for all of this. There are still now, we started at 3:00, 4 hours later almost. There's still 1,600 of you here, including the people who contributed and asked questions. That's amazing. You guys make all this worth it, but I'm only going to do this once because the rest of the time I'm just going to have fun. Happy birthday, Jimmy.
Oh.
You are genuinely a good friend, and I value you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Once the saw stop's done, I'll be able to sell my table saw downstairs, get rid of it, and just bring shit up to you to have cut. You guys don't even begin to know how much work Jimmy ends up doing for the line. Yes, we're expanding producers. We're getting Arden involved. I'm going to be doing some more stuff, which I didn't even know was possible, but I'm having so much fun. And we are genuinely excited to be building a community, not only focused on the same mission that I've been focused on for the last 18 years, but to do so in a way that combines integrity and occasionally profit in a way that we're proud of. And I couldn't be happier with the way things are going here. And now, Jimmy, go fuck yourself.
Thank you for ending it that way. It was so uncomfortable. Good night, everyone. We'll see you on Zoom.